Welcome back to the channel. This is Trinity Storm and you are watching third part of What If Naruto Had a Sexy Vampire Bodyguard. If you enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe to the channel. Now wasting no more time, let's start the story.
Gritting his teeth, Kankuro tried to close the distance to the blonde Akatsuki member who was riding his big clay bird with Gaara safely nestled in its tail. This bastard was not going to get away with it, not with him. Either he died trying, or he would save his brother. His brother needed to be saved. He could not abandon his brother to whatever ill luck lay ahead of him. He would never again leave his brother unaccompanied. He would not give up on his beloved younger brother. It's true that he was afraid of Gaara for the most of his life. However, he wasn't particularly afraid of Gaara. The Ichibi inside Gaara and the lies it was most likely telling his younger brother frightened him more. Should Kankuro have any regrets in life, it would be abandoning his brother to face the harshness of the village and their adoptive father. The worst thing he regretted most, though, was not providing a brotherly hug when he would wake up in the middle of the night, screaming, because of the Ichibi inside of him. Ever since the Konoha invasion and Naruto's speech to Gaara about the true meaning of strength. Rather than offering him the support of a brother, the boy with brown hair had made it his mission to make up for all the time he had lost when he was too cowardly to be close to Gaara. Tamari said that she agreed with him on that point as well. Since then, they have made every effort to spend as much time as possible with Gaara, taking him shopping, on picnics, and to play ball. Anything and everything that crossed their minds. And they had a great time spending time with Gaara. Since that Konoha invasion, when they first met Naruto, and when their father passed away. The three Sand siblings' situation has been improving. Kankuro is aware that Tamari harbors a covert infatuation for the man named Nara Shikamaru from Konoha. The guy's laziness was the reason he didn't think well of him. However, he was unable to dispute that, should the circumstances become known, the Nara would not think twice to refute him and defend his sister. And now Yui was Gaara's girlfriend. He was, and still is, delighted for his younger brother because, after all, the village had already mostly accepted him, he had gained the title of Kazekage, he had found love, and together they were the family that had always been intended. He even has a girlfriend named Sari, who is a Kunoichi. He had grown to love that girl very much, and just as he was doing for Gaara now, he would gladly give his life to protect and save her. Life was going fantastically well in the sand. But this time. Right now, everything was going to hell in a flash. After infiltrating the village, they discovered that one of the residents was an Akatsuki member. In the fight, his younger brother was defeated by the member of that dreadful group. And his brother was being abducted right now. Yes, this has been a really embarrassing evening thus far. When he realized the Akatsuki member he was pursuing was approaching the village's main gate, he snapped out of his reverie. Gritting his teeth, Kankuro focused chakra into his feet to propel himself forward faster. Kankuro and Deidara arrived at the gate in no time at all. Upon their arrival, Deidara cast a sidelong glance and grinned slightly in amusement. With one arm raised, the blonde threw some of his clay creatures onto the cliffs near the village entrance. Kankuro's eyes grew wide before he leapt powerfully and landed roughly outside the village gate. Deidara's detonation of the explosives caused a cave. In that blocked off the village entrance, and it happened just in time as well. Kankuro cursed his current circumstances. He faced an S. rank shinobi, had no backup, and was unable to flee or seek assistance. To put this all in one word, that was all he had. Fuck. Right now, that's what our resident puppeteer wanted to say. But when he saw the blonde Akatsuki sitting on his bird's head, slouching over him and grinning, he refrained from speaking. Patting Gaara's head every now and then is obviously meant to agitate Kankuro. It was painfully obvious that the blonde had the upper hand in the air, so Kankuro bit the inside of his tongue to keep himself from acting recklessly and attacking the blonde. He glared angrily and hatefully at the seemingly arrogant member of Akatsuki. But his eyes widened, and he frantically stepped aside. Not to mention right on schedule. Because he would have been cut in half if he had stayed there. With his back to Deidara, Kankuro turned his attention to an Akatsuki member who was hunched over, his icy gaze piercing through his nervous eyes. With two members of the Akatsuki now under his control, Kankuro swallowed. For heaven's sake, oh. He was unsure of which was worse, the intense heat of the desert or the Akatsuki he now had to deal with. Furthermore, he didn't think he could possibly kill any of them, injure, perhaps. Indeed, his chances of making it to the moon would be higher. Yo Sasori. Donna. You want me to move on ahead and let you take care of this? Or do you want me to wait until you've finished? Deidara raised her voice. Konkuro's gaze enlarges. Sasori. Donna? I am aware of just one individual with the name Sasori in the entire world. And that's Sasori from the Red Sand, the puppeteer with brown hair pondered. With a cold, calculating voice, Sasori answered, You move on ahead, Deidara, I'll take care of things here. Now get moving, I hate to keep others waiting. I understand, Sasori. Donna. Have fun, The blonde said with a nod to Deidara, who then gave the order for his bird to turn around and resume its previous path. Konkuro yelled, sprinting after the blonde, Hey, where do you think you're going? Get back here, fucker. But all of a sudden, he had to duck a blow to his posterior. The member of Akatsuki with the hunchback said, It's not a good idea to turn your back on your opponent. Boy. In a chilly, dark voice. Konkuro squinted his eyes at the man in opposition. He stayed in that exact spot. Normally, one would have to move when attacked or even just slightly moved. The attack should have at least created a dust trail in the sand, even with its rapid speed. That is the fastest anyone could possibly move, Yandaime Hokage and his Hiraishin of Konoha. And this hunched over guy can't really move that fast, Konkuro thought to himself, evaluating his opponent. It's interesting that the brat managed to evade that blow. If anything, I would have assumed that his ignorance would cause him to be impaled all the way through. However, it appears that I misjudged him. Actually, Sasori was a little impressed. With a wad of spit in his throat, Konkuro swallowed. Fighting and killing this guy was the only way he was going to get through him. Then he could go after Gaara again, but the issue that wasn't the issue was. The question was whether he was capable of taking down an S. Rank shinobi. It was about time Konkuro figured that out, though. Konkuro started, Before we begin this fight, I have one question. Sasori nodded, allowing Konkuro to speak without saying anything. The boy with brown hair gulped at the possibility of an answer from the Akatsuki member and asked, Are you Sasori of the Red Sand? How strange that someone like you, and as young as you no doubt would know my name. Yes, Suna Nin. I am in fact Sasori of the Red Sand, the hunched Overman said with a cold, dark chuckle. Given that he was now up against the Sasori of the Red Sand, Konkuro had a low curse. A shinobi who produced more than 300 puppeteers for Suna. A puppetry expert and one of the few S-ranked shinobi without a cage in the Sand Village. The fact that Gaara is still being taken, or the fact that Konkuro is fighting Sasori, is what he didn't know was worse. Sasori said, coldly glaring into Konkuro's eyes, but enough of this pointless banter, Suna shinobi. I'm not here to talk, I'm here to kill you and be done with it. So let's get this started, after all. I hate to keep other people waiting. A large tail like object with a blade at the tip appeared from right under Sasori's cloak, causing Konkuro to widen his eyes. Konkuro exclaimed, What? In shock before having to move fast to keep from having the tail stab him through the chest. With a channeling of chakra into his fingers, the boy with brown hair connected the large bandaged object on his back to chakra threads right away. After the bandages tore, Konkuro's Karasu puppet began to participate in the game. But the Konkuro wasn't finished yet, and he proceeded to open 3 scrolls and reveal the contents within. When the smoke cleared, Konkuro was seen standing next to 2 additional puppets. One called Sanshuo and the other Korori. When Konkuro flexed his fingers, Karasu launched himself into action, attempting to seize hold of Akatsuki's hunched back. Sasori, however, quickly sidestepped the apparent attack by simply moving to the right. Then the tail. Wielding Akatsuki leapt backward to deflect the Korori's upward blow. With narrowed eyes, Sasori threw his tail straight at the Karasu. When Sasori quickly retaliated, Konkuro's eyes widened a little. However, he quickly maneuvered the Karasu to retreat in order to evade Sasori's strike, and then the boy in black clothing tricked the Korori into attacking Sasori from behind. But the Akatsuki member was having none of it, so he just wrapped his tail around himself and spinned to create a strong barrier of defense. You're surprisingly not half bad, boy. But this is where I'm going to end this, I'm afraid, seeing as I'm keeping the others waiting. And I despise keeping others waiting," Sasori said with an authoritative voice. Sasori's tail abruptly broke Kankuro's karasu into several hundred pieces before he could even react. The tail propelled itself toward Kankuro by using its momentum. Nevertheless, Kankuro moved fast, manipulating the Sanshuo in front of him and raising its shield. That was ineffective against someone like Sasori, whose tail severely deviated from the path and destroyed the Sanshuo's weak point. Destroying the Sanshuo effectively. Seizing the chance, Sasori swiftly threw his tail back in Kankuro's direction. And for his trouble, the black-clad shinobi only just managed to avoid Sasori's blow, taking a minor cut to his cut. "Damn it!" exclaimed Kankuro. Gaara's brother maneuvered the Korori, his last puppet, and used the puppet to launch a ground attack on Sasori. Sasori simply leapt back to evade the blow, then proceeded to attack the last and final puppet with his tail once more. But Kankuro was not going to allow that to happen, and he made the puppet backpedal by jerking his arm. He peered warily at Sasori, but was startled to see Akatsuki's hunchback disappear into the sand. How on earth did he ever find time to trade in for a sand clone? The realization caused the young shinobi's eyes to widen. That was earlier, when the guy with Gaara was about to leave and I was going to chase after him. He thought it was the perfect moment to switch with a clone. The real Sasori reappeared in the fight, getting to his feet and bringing his tail down to strike Kankuro in the back. But Kankuro flexed his fingers out of sheer instinct, and the Korori moved to face Sasori's tail, absorbing the full force of the blow and being destroyed in the process. Kankuro exclaimed, "Damn it! Korori! Karasu! Sanshuo! Someone as young as you! You were an impressive opponent, boy. I am actually quite glad that a puppeteer such as you came along. It actually renewed my faith in future puppeteers. I wonder though? Had I not left the village, would you be calling me Sasori? Donna instead of Deidara?" Sasori thought. "Oh well, it doesn't really matter. It's time to finish this. For what it's worth, I haven't had this much fun in a long time, Suna Shinobi. No Subaku no Kankuro," Sasori said. Suddenly, Kankuro's whole body went rigid, and he collapsed to the ground due to extreme weakness. Poison. However, when did he? He thought, back then when that tail of his scraped my cheek. Before Sasori's tail snapped and struck out at Kankuro, he said, "Goodbye Subaku no Kankuro." But in a final act of defiance, Kankuro used Karasu's head to swerve the tail off course and attempted to slit Sasori's throat with another part of Karasu's hands. Sasori dodged out of pure instinct, but just in time, a tiny fragment of cloth wrapped around his lower face. Seeing an opportunity to win this battle even slightly, Kankuro maneuvered the hand that was about to cut Sasori's throat to catch the flying piece of cloth that had been torn from Sasori. Kankuro grinned slightly at the little triumph. "Well, it appears you are quite stubborn about maintaining that weakening life of yours. I was planning on giving you a quick death as a sign of respect. But I will allow you to live since you're so stubborn about it," Sasori replied. "Goodbye Subaku no Kankuro. It truly was quite fun while it lasted. But it's time for me to go, after all I've kept the others waiting long enough." With those final words, the hunched over member of Akatsuki slowly started walking towards his allies. "At the most you have 3 days. 3 days of undeniable pain before you are allowed to finally die." Kankuro soon noticed that his body was growing weaker and weaker. His vision was filled with black spots and all sounds were disappearing. He managed to see a black hawk swooping through the sky and heard a muffled cry of, "Kankuro Sama," before the darkness took hold of him. Ignoring everyone else's stunned and bewildered looks, Naruto stormed into the Hokage tower and made his way upstairs to the Hokage office. Denying the secretary's request for an appointment. "Sorry bitchy human. But we are in a serious rush, please try again in say 3 to 4 days. Kyuubi chuckled. The giant fox's tone was devoid of any trace of humor. Just controlled rage and anger. "Kyuubi, don't worry." Naruto thought, "I'll do everything in my power to save your sibling from whatever hell is in store for him." Kyuubi gave a snort. "What makes you think I care about what happens to my siblings? I am the king of the Biju, and a king never worries over his subjects." Kyuubi replied. Even so, Kyuubi. Without his subjects, what is a king? The blonde retorted. The Kyuubi asked in an innocent tone, a very politically powerful motherfucker that make your life fucking miserable any fucking second of your life, and basically have you by the fucking balls for the rest of your life? Raising an eyebrow, Naruto said, that's kind of true. The blonde answered, but the fact remains that a king is nothing without his subjects, and even then the king is not the true king. Oh no, not this damn thing again about the true king. Seriously, I'm over what, 3,000 years old? I know what you mean when you say, who the true king is. After all, I had over a long-ass motherfucking time to figure it out. Kyuubi grumbled. Oh, you're older than 3 millennia? Now, your back doesn't hurt, does it? Oji. Chan, the fair-haired girl jeered. I so want to kill you so much right now, by strangling you until your entire body turns blue. After that I'll rip your stomach open, and make you watch as your intestines slowly slide out of your fucking stomach. After that, I'll rip your fucking spine out of your mouth, and shove it right back down your throat just to hear you choke on it. After that I'll slowly, oh so slowly I'll tear up your ass, unsheathed mind you, and then leave it as deep as I can in there. The Kyuubi paused here to make sure Naruto was paying attention. And finally, as you slowly die, I'll eat your fucking girlfriend right in front of you, just to see the expression of pure despair and horror on your face as the light finally leaves your eyes. The huge fox said. When Kyuubi was done, Naruto had the color of a piece of paper. Kyuubi. You're having problems, the blonde answered slowly. But can you really blame him? I just heard about the most horrific death threat I've ever heard for him. Would the Kyuubi actually carry that out? I'd prefer not to learn. Kyuubi remarked nonchalantly, Naruto, everyone has issues. Heck, even your father had some issues. But wait, what? Naruto answered incoherently. Yeah, your father had some issues. Like the time when he and your mother were having you, he may have been a little sadistic. And then there was the time when an Iwa shinobi insulted your mother. What he did to that Iwa shinobi even had me shiver in slight fear. Not to mention your father was a bit of a furry. Seeing as sometimes he would have your mother cosplay in cat, fox, rabbit. All kinds of costumes. But that was really rare. Seeing as your mother would beat the shit out of him afterwards. The huge fox clarified. And how do you know this? I've been sealed inside your mother, duh. I know both your mother and father's deepest darkest secrets. Like the fact that even though Jiraiya couldn't corrupt your father, he had already been corrupted. By whom? Your mother corrupted him. Contrary to popular belief, your mother was very perverted with your father. The things they did with each other while in bed. Yeah. I'm not gonna tell ya. Why not? Because then you'll have one massive hard-on, and Shiroi isn't around to relieve you of that. That and I don't want to traumatize you. Please, could we just put this conversation to rest now? How, you ask, did we ever come upon this subject in the first place? Kyuubi answered, trying to recall how they ended up talking about this subject in the first place. I don't know. The blonde said, yeah, I'm ending this conversation on this note, seeing as we're right at the door to the Hokage's office, effectively putting an end to the exchange with the Kyuubi. He realized that the blonde's sudden intrusion into the room was something that only his naive and impressionable self would have done. He also had to behave like a true Jonin because, as of right now, he was one. He couldn't just walk into the office. That would be impolite. However, it would demonstrate that he had not grown at all in terms of maturity. He inhaled deeply, put on a calm expression of indifference, knocked on the door, and then waited patiently for someone to acknowledge him. He opened the door after hearing a muffled, "Come in," and to his surprise, Shizune and Sakura were there in addition to Tsunade. Shizune smiled and waved to the blonde, who returned the favor by nodding and grinning slightly. With intense attention, Sakura seemed to be trying to pierce the blonde's mind and dissect him in order to gain knowledge. Certain things appeared. The blonde-haired shinobi turned his back on her completely, took off his head hood and focused on Tsunade. Handling an inconsiderate second was not nearly as important as dealing with the first. If there was something bothering her, he wasn't going to waste his time on her. As harsh as it sounds, he wasn't actually hostile towards Sakura. More like he put up with her, he'd long since come to the conclusion that pursuing Sakura was It was foolish of him. She frequently treated him like garbage and preferred to spend all of her time sulking over Sasuke to putting in the necessary training to become a proper kunoichi. If anything, Sakura's friendship with Naruto was the only reason he even replied to her when he got back to the village. Those who abandon the rules are, as Kakashi once said, but those who abandon their comrades are worse than trash. Though he used the term, friend, loosely, he only acknowledged Sakura because she was a comrade and friend. Naruto, what do you need? Tsunade asked, raising her eyebrows slightly to begin the conversation. Naruto turned to face Tsunade and Tsunade alone, speaking in a tone that was serious, calm, and uninterested. Hokage. Sama, I have reason to believe that Subaku no Gaara of Tsunagakure and Godem Kazekage of Suna is in great danger. Sakura and Shizune stared at the blonde in silence. They never would have guessed that the knuckle-headed blonde shinobi they knew would be so serious and courteous. If he really was this serious, then something had to have occurred. Even so, Shizune couldn't help but smile modestly as he observed Naruto. After all, the blonde had called her Shizune Nichan more than once. And on his training trip with Jiraiya, Shizune had made it his personal mission to make sure the blonde had something to read. Before he left the village with the blonde, she had quietly, and Tsunade was unaware of it, told Jiraiya to send her a toad every 3 months. She wanted to make sure Naruto gained good emotional control in addition to learning how to control his chakras. In order to help the blonde even a little bit with his training, she would go to the library whenever a toad poofed in front of her, pick up some books on various techniques for chakra control and emotional control, and send them to the blonde as a gift. Naturally, she instructed Jiraiya to keep this a secret until the blonde mastered excellent chakra and emotional control. And the fact that the blonde had so completely exceeded her expectations made her very proud. The brunette was ecstatic about this. As Tsunade spoke, she was wrenched out of her reverie. Tsunade asked, her eyes narrowing gravely, and what makes you believe that the Kazekage is in danger as you say it? Naruto? The blonde answered, it's because I sensed him using Senjutsu Chakra Hokage. Sama. Even if what you say is true, Naruto, I can't very well just send a team of shinobi to Suna without clearance, and a letter bearing either the Wind Daimyo's seal, or the Kazecage's seal. The political backlashes would prove troublesome. The blonde female Hokage said. Naruto parted his lips, but Sakura spoke before him. Sakura frowned and crossed her arms, saying, Naruto Tsunade. Sama doesn't have time to be dealing with your stupid gut feeling, as you can see we are very busy here, and you're only getting in the way. Sakura must have assumed that Naruto was still the same person when he bristled a little. The same Naruto who, in return for her affections, would listen to her like a lost puppy. Unfortunately for her, Naruto no longer felt any feelings for her and stopped caring about her. All of his devotion, his soul, his heart, and his very self now belonged to Shiroi and no one else. Just as he owned Shiroi as well. Sakura was about to receive a stern rebuke from Tsunade when she noticed Naruto giving her student a chilly look, which caused Sakura to freeze in place. The tense chill that swept through the office in that one moment caused Tonton, who was asleep, to wake up, and even Shizune, who was filing some flies, to stop what she was doing and look at the scene. Sakura coldly said, do not speak to a superior officer like that again. Not only do I surpass in skill and rank, I also surpass you in field experience and strength. So don't try me, Sakura, I am not that same little boy who would have hang off your every word like a puppy. Naruto said. Sakura swallowed, so this. Naruto had truly changed and was no longer the same person she could control. Why would he be so cold toward her when this Naruto was the same but also completely different? She should know. It took her almost 3 years to move on from Sasuke. They say that the first love is the hardest to leave behind. However, she anticipated that Naruto would still harbor affections for her. Thus, why? Her eyes grew a little wider. This was most likely caused by the girl he was seeing. Somehow, she must have tempted Naruto. It was the sole rationale. The blonde was likely being fed a series of lies by the girl, who also probably told herself that she was Naruto's fiancé. Sakura returned quietly to filing some papers, confident in her assessment of the situation, but now her astute mind was formulating plans to destroy the bond between Naruto and Shiroi. Sakura drew Naruto's eyes closer. How odd that she wouldn't just give up on her side of the dispute. maybe she's grown up now? Kyuubi said, silently giving the girl with pink hair a dark glare through his container's eyes. Be wary of her, Naruto. I believe she isn't exactly finished just yet. She is probably using that large head of hers to use. For what I don't know. But my opinion? Keep your eyes on her. Altair purged in accordance with Kyuubi's statements. Well observed, Altair, Kyuubi. Naruto said. Hokage. Sama, I understand the potential political backlash. But you must understand, Suna is our allies, so would it not make sense to check up with our allies every now and then? The blonde said with a smile as he turned back to face Tsunade. Tsunade gave a blink. That seemed like a really smart idea, one that ought to be implemented. Friends, family, and fellow soldiers always came first according to Konoha's policies. Thus, how could it not be? Since Suna was a comrade and one of their allies, it only made sense to inquire about their well-being. Tsunade nodded to the blonde and said, You bring up a fair point, Naruto. Very well, I'll send a messenger bird to Suna to ask the case cage that you said hi since you're the one worried about him. Then she took out a piece of paper. But before she could even start writing on the paper, everyone's attention was drawn to a tapping sound coming from her window. A black hawk was tapping her window impatiently when Tsunade turned around in her chair. The blonde Hokage arched an eyebrow, got up from her seat, opened the window, and took off the scroll that was fastened to the hawk's back. With a heavy sigh, she sat back down in the chair after carefully opening the scroll and reading it. She then blinked and read the scroll several more times. Naruto clenched his fists as Sakura and Shizune gasped at the end of the female Hokage's gloomy monologue. Naruto. You were right, as of right now Sanagakure is under code black. The case cage of Suna has been kidnapped by Akatsuki. With a grunt, Shiroi awoke, yawning and giving her eyes a cute little rub. She gave a slight shake of her head, as if to dispel any residual fatigue from her body. Her sleepiness was slapped out of her the moment she looked to the other side of the bed and saw that Naruto was not there to be her morning cuddle bear. She scowled a little, and then her mouth started to water as the aroma of breakfast entered her nostrils. She was a lady, and it wasn't appropriate for her to be drooling over breakfast before she shook her head. Despite the fact that Naruto's breakfast was some of the best she had ever tasted. When the urge got the better of her, she leapt out of bed, slid down the stairs, crashed into the couch, and landed squarely in front of the mouthwatering scent she was inhaling. When she saw her breakfast, she licked her lips hungrily. A full stack of pancakes, covered in a thick layer of syrup and butter. 3 cooked eggs, sunny side up. 5 bacon pieces on the other. And lastly, 3 cooked turkey ham pieces distributed between them. A big glass of tomato juice was positioned off to the side, and a napkin with a fork and a small knife on it was right next to it. She moistened her lips once more. She loved this kind of breakfast, especially when Naruto prepared it. He knew she disliked overcooked or overdone food, so he always cooked it just right for her. She would have preferred it to be in the middle of the two. She excitedly took the knife and fork and started to slowly and steadily eat her breakfast, making sure to enjoy every bite. She drained the tomato juice glass after 7 minutes and took a tiny sip, covering her mouth the entire time. Muttering a little, "Pardon me," she looked around the space and noticed a message on the table. She raised an eyebrow, picked up the note, and realized right away that Naruto was writing in his own hand. After reading the note through to the end, she narrowed her eyes and hurried up the stairs to change into her clothes. It seems that Akatsuki has finally taken action. Shiroi was going to have so much fun smashing them until they were just empty shells. She changed into her regular clothes very quickly and turned to leave the room, but she changed her mind. Gradually, her gaze shifted to one of her shelves, and a sly, malevolent smile appeared on her face. She reached over to the shelf and took out a scroll bearing the name, Zero Chan. Her gloomy smile only got bigger as she channeled Yuki into the scroll with barely suppressed joy. A tiny red puff of smoke rose, and as it gradually cleared, a tiny doll with ears resembling elves was visible. Green hair that reaches the shoulders. The little doll had on a blue necktie and a big white neckerchief that was worn like a cape with a black dress. The tiny doll appeared to be sleeping with its eyes closed. Shiroi whispered, "Chachizero, wake up now, dear." The tiny doll ignored Shiroi and muttered something incoherent before falling asleep. Zero Chan, If you wake up, I promise that not only will you see your precious Naruto Chama, you'll also get to bathe in blood, Shiroi teased, her eye twitching. I get to hang out with Naruto Chama. And I get to bathe in blood. What do you need me for, Shiroi Chama? The small doll exclaimed, her eyes snapping open to reveal bright green orbs. Her smile was both innocently cute and vicious. With a small laugh, Shiroi said to the white-haired girl, oh, don't worry, you'll get to bathe in blood, although I'm not sure when. I'm sure there'll be some blood for you to bathe in. The small doll exclaimed with excitement, oh okay. Can we go to Naruto Chama now? Shiroi laughed a little, not sure why, but the little doll had taken a quick liking to the blonde when she brought Chachizero to Naruto. Most likely as a result of the blonde taking the doll along on one of his bandit hunting excursions. Chachizero was able to assemble a large arsenal of weapons there for her to use. And of course see a great deal of violence. Oh, that made Naruto the second person on Chachizero's list of people I love to hang out with, Shiroi being the first, of course. With a hint of giggle, Shiroi said, of course we can Zero Chan, now hush, we are in a civilian village at the moment, and I don't think they would appreciate a talking doll around them. With a fit of giggles, Chachizero raised her arms in the manner of a child who is waiting for their parent to come get them. Shiroi obeyed and put the small green-haired doll atop her head, allowing it to channel some of her creator's personality and adhere to her head. When Shiroi was satisfied that Chachizero was safely on her head, she went down the steps and out the door, making sure to lock it. As she left the gate, she hummed a song and locked it, making sure to check the lock multiple times to make sure it was securely fastened. Feeling content, she pivoted and proceeded ahead, only to collide with an object. Despite the blow's force, Shiroi managed to maintain her upright posture. She looked down, a maniacal, gloomy smile lighting up her face. She could not have forgotten the girl standing in front of her, as she was well acquainted with her. She'd visited the minds of many, including this girl. An ensemble primarily made up of platinum blonde hair tied in a high ponytail that was purple and covered the right side of her face with a bang. Green tinted, pale blue eyes without a pupil. Yes, she was quite familiar with this girl. Shiroi's dark, maniacal, almost deranged smile caught Chachizero's attention, and the tiny doll burst into uncontrollably loud, quiet giggles. With a dark, manic grin that never left her face and menacing bright pink eyes, Shiroi asked, do you require assistance, miss? Oh no, I'm fine, thank you for offering though, am I? Ino cut herself off in mid-sentence as she saw the long, smooth, silvery white hair, the pink eyes with the vertical slit down the middle, and the big, shit-eating smile that revealed incredibly sharp fangs that she would never be able to comprehend. Ino started to shake and paled significantly. This girl. This was the same girl who, a year prior, had almost driven her insane. Why was she in this village at all? What was her original reason for coming here? And did she have that doll on her head? Laughing? Shiroi teased and mocked, Era? It seems you remember me quite well, don't you? Ino. Chan. W. Y.A. Are you H? Here? The platinum blonde stammered as she swallowed nervously. Why am I here? Why I live here now, Ino? Chan? Shiroi questioned, her eyes mockingly shining. She had a menacing giggle. You live here? Ino cried out, her face filled with horror. Shiroi spoke, her eyes briefly turning bright pink as she stepped closer to the platinum blonde. Well, Naruto Kun lives here, does he not? As such as his dear loving fiancé, I must live with him as well. With a terrified step back, Ino attempted to gather chakra for a body flicker, but Shiroi's Yuki was all it took for her to become paralyzed. You don't actually believe you can escape me, do you? Shiroi asked rhetorically, her fangs slightly elongating as she laughed darkly. Chachizero was giggling wildly and innocently atop her head. Ino swallowed again, then shook her head unsteadily. Shiroi gave a dark laugh and said, good, you are learning. Good girl. With a sadistic smirk that got bigger when Ino flinched. She patted Ino on the head. Why? You mentioned that Naruto was your fiancé? Ino questioned, her beady eyes fixed on the blonde. Shiroi purred, why yes, He's my fiancé, my lover, and my Naru-kun. Her eyes brightened with possessiveness as she nodded, gathering the guts to say, "Why? You're talking about him like an object again." Was Ino. With a look that suggested the platinum blonde was beneath her, Shiroi looked at Ino. She whispered, "Is that what you think?" As she reached for the nape of her neck and gently lowered the shirt's collar to show off the Uzumaki's swirl with the two crossed blades behind it. Naruto-kun is mine, just as I am his. His heart belongs to me, and my heart belongs to him," she said. She spoke with a dark aura of pure malice and darkness emanating from her small form. "Someone such as you, this village, its people. I despise all of you. The only reason you all are not yet dead by my hands is because Naruto wants to protect you all. If I had a choice, I would leave you all to rot in hell, with a certain few being saved from that fate." A few nearby villagers started to tremble and shiver in their places. They were absolutely terrified despite the fact that the killing intent and aura weren't even directed at them. Some shinobi who were in close proximity started to tremble and some even started to experience hyperventilation. However, for Ino, well, for the platinum blonde, it was even worse. She was having flashes of death images in her head. More horrifying, bloody, gory, and terrifying than the last, each death is. Chachizero could not contain her laughter when she saw this too. The tiny doll made sure to ingrain in her mind the girl's expression of terror, panic, and despair. Shiroi Chama has an incredible ability to frighten people beyond comprehension, the little green-haired doll remarked, chuckling menacingly. Shiroi started, "A few words of advice, Ino-san. If you, or any of your friends, do anything to try and separate me from Naruto, then I'll drain all of the blood from your body, and make all of you my eternal slaves for the rest of your pathetic lives. Am I clear?" She continued, her fangs growing until they reached just above her chin, the slits in her eyes getting thinner. Really? Right now, she had a demonic appearance. All that Ino could do was nod her head fearfully. With a condescending grin, Shiroi gave Ino another pet peck on the head. "Good girl. Maybe we'll get along after all," she uttered as her eyes stopped glowing and her fangs grew back to their normal length. Her slitted pupils also stopped shrinking and went back to their original state. The white-haired vampire started walking toward the Hokage Tower once more. When Shiroi's evil aura finally subsided, Ino gasped deeply and began to tremble uncontrollably for a short while before gathering her courage and stopping herself. She shivered once more as she cast a sidelong glance in Shiroi's direction. She needed to exercise caution around that girl because she posed a threat. More importantly, she needed to remove that girl from Naruto's presence. Could she perhaps enlist Hinata's assistance to keep Naruto away from that girl? Definitely worth a shot. Meanwhile, Shiroi had a contented smirk on her face as she strolled through Konoha's streets. Yes, it was a lot of fun revealing to the platinum blonde slut who was in charge. Chachizero whispered, "Shiroi Chama, you were awesome." The white-haired girl giggled, "Why thank you, Zero-chan." With an innocent giggle, Chachizero swept her eyes over the village's civilian population. And that's exactly what the tiny doll did. She started to think of the bloodiest, most horrific ways to murder the villagers. She laughed, but her laugh was menacing rather than playful. Chachizero laughed more ominously as they strolled through the village and saw how some men would gaze at Shiroi with lust. Oh, how she would love to crave their bloody dead bodies. Unfortunately, Shiroi stated that Naruto wanted to defend this village, so she would try not to kill the villagers in order to appease her second favorite. As a result, she was not permitted. But if they enraged Naruto and Shiroi, then all bets were off. They arrived at the Hokage Tower after about 4 minutes, and Shiroi went inside right away. Disregarding the secretary's statement that she required an appointment, she strolled by. Her fiancé was in the office of the Hokage. There was no way she needed an appointment, since she was going to become Uzumaki Shiroi soon. And because of this, she was inherently superior to every villager, even that sultry-looking secretary. She started up the stairs and stopped when she got to the room she was searching for. She closed her eyes after humming for a while. Her Yuki was slightly spread out to sense if anyone was in the room. It appears that not only is Tsunade present, but also Naruto. Kun. I consider the pink-haired woman to be inside as well, but this third presence, who is it? That seems interesting. Is that she? Zu. Nay, Tsunade's assistant? Naruto did share with me some information about Shizune and how he thought of her as a sister figure. Interesting, the girl with white hair thought to herself. Sensing everyone in the room, Shiroi made sure her hair was styled properly. Considering her hair, her pigtails were nowhere to be found. Why wasn't her hair styled in the typical pigtail manner? Oh no. She must have been in a hurry and forgot to arrange it in a pigtail style. But now that I think about it, Naruto did admit that he preferred her hair in a less pigtail styled format. He claimed that when it cascaded freely down her back, it enhanced her beauty. The decision was made. She was going to let her hair fall freely down her back from now on. Shiroi knocked first and got permission before opening the door to avoid any more interruptions. She noticed how everyone's focus turned to her as soon as she walked into the room. Naruto looked at his beloved fiancée, and he blushed the moment he saw her stunning silver hair peeking out from its usual pigtails. Tsunade looked at her godson's fiancé with a smile that belied a hint of relief. Tsunade, the blonde, had almost exploded when she learned that Gaara had been taken prisoner. The blonde Hokage made every effort to soothe the blonde, but very little succeeded. However, the blonde's annoyance and frustration vanished as soon as Shiroi entered the room. It was as though her simple presence was enough to make the blonde calm down. Shizune gave Shiroi a curious glance. Was this the girl from Jiraiya's letters that she had been hearing so much about? The girl was really breathtakingly beautiful. Sakura gave the girl a fierce stare and started equating herself with the girl with the silver hair. She was pleased to point out that although her breasts were at least a B cup, Sakura's own breasts were slightly larger than the girl with the silver hair since she had A cup breasts. She then started comparing their respective curves. Sakura also experienced a sensation similar to a punch to the stomach. She had never seen a girl with better curves than this one. Her hips were narrow but small, giving her a nearly hourglass figure. Even though she was shorter than her, she had long, smooth legs that seemed to go on forever. How could a girl so little have such a figure? Her petite, pink lips exuded charm and desire. Her skin appeared pallid and seemed to gleam in the moonlight forever. With two slightly spiked bangs framing her face and ending at her chest, and Heim-style bangs covering her forehead, her long, smooth, silvery white hair reached her knees. Her eyes had vertical slits and were a stunning, distinctive bright pink color. She was certain that you would see fangs when the girl with the silver hair smiled. Overall, even though the girl was small, her beauty was still overwhelming. Sakura actually had a brief episode of depression as a result of it. How was she going to match this girl? Stupid Sakura, nobody can defeat Shiroi in a competition. Ask Jiraiya, and he'll tell you that he has never defeated Shiroi in a chess match. In other words, Sakura, if you attempt to outdo Shiroi, you're going to come up short. Really bad, to the point of being utterly embarrassing. Sakura, you can't even seem to hear me, can you? That would be a violation of the fourth wall, and we can't allow that to occur, after all. Anyhow, let's go back to the narrative. With great excitement, Shachizuru yelled, "Naruto! Chama!" and leapt off Shiroi's head onto Naruto's tangle of spiky hair. With trepidation, Naruto said, "Hey Zero! Chan!" Kyuubi exclaimed, cautiously glancing at the doll, "Oh sweet Kami! It's that doll from hell!" And was that look of fear in Kyuubi's eyes? What blasphemy! He was Kyuubi no Kitsune, the all-powerful one. A lovable and huggable doll was not the ridiculous and moronic thing he feared. It was sheer heresy. Head held high, Kyuubi withdrew back into his cage. Not due to fear. Well, it was due to. He needed to get things done. Yes, indeed. And that was it. Thus, don't just sit there and claim that Kyuubi was afraid, he wasn't. And there was absolutely no way that his tails were trembling between his legs. He was only getting warmed up. He was not afraid at all. Sakura and Shizune, meanwhile, were staring at the tiny doll outside the Kyuubi's seal in utter disbelief. To sum up this situation, they could only think of one thing. What? The fucking it? Altair shook nervously in its sheath. It attempted to touch the doll when it was last seen. And Altair served Naruto alone. Damn it, it didn't work for anyone else. Tsunade blinked once, twice, 3 times, and then she opened her drawer and took out a bottle of sake. She just stared blankly at the tiny doll. She glanced at the sake bottle, then back at the doll, before glancing at the sake bottle once more. Before she abruptly got to her feet, moved to the window, opened it, and hurled the sake bottle out of it. The unfortunate villager yelled, "Da! My eye!" as the bottle struck him square in the eye. Tsunade closed the window, dismissing the pained scream from the villager and turning her focus back to the others. Was that doll making her laugh? After blinking owlishly for a few moments, the female Hokage shook her head and took a seat. She needs to stop drinking sake, really. The picture of Minato gave a small chuckle before smiling again. Please. Call Ghostbusters, please. Shiroi snapped everyone out of their shock and disbelief with the question, Naruto. Kun, what were you talking about before I got here? Sakura interrupted Naruto before he could respond, almost sneering, this is a shinobi matter, Shiroi. San. And you are a civilian, as such you have no authority to know such a thing. Sakura saw Shiroi's blank expression and her menacing flashing eyes, but Sakura was startled into a cold sweat by that one moment. The blonde shot Sakura a chilly look and replied, we were talking about how we were going to go about saving Gaara before you entered Shiroi. Chan. Before he fully entered the room, Shiroi raised an eyebrow. And what have you decided? She asked, glancing entirely away from Sakura. We decided we are going to send a signal team. Not to mention this is an excellent opportunity to test out Naruto's leadership skills, so he will be in charge of this mission, while a senior Jonin will assess him. Replied Tsunade. Shiroi mumbled, oh? Interesting. For this mission, the team needs to be small but effective. We are facing a possibility of facing 2S ranked criminals. I would bring along another team, but Team Guy is not in the village at the moment. And if I recall you gave the other rookie 9 a few days off current? Asked Naruto. Tsunade gave a head nod. Then I need to bring along at least 2 others with me, 1 medic, and 1 who has experience fighting S ranked shinobi. Said Naruto. That's where your fellow Jonin comes in, Naruto. He will be the one who will be able to assist you most in combat, and can keep up with you until you reach the Suna. Suna is 3 days away, but should you and your team keep going non-stop at full speed, then you should make in 1 or 2.5. The woman Hokage said. That's acceptable, Hokage. Sama. You, Shizune, and Sakura are the only medics that I know of in the village, and you can't come because you're the Hokage, and Shizune can't come because she's your assistant. Therefore the only choice I have is Sakura. Naruto thought about it. Sakura smiled a little, realizing that this would be a great chance to woo Naruto and win him back. Shiroi scowled a little at the girl with the pink hair. Even just thinking about that slut utilizing her Naruto in some way totally pissed her off. Shiroi batted her curved eyelashes and said, well, you won't exactly be just going alone, Naruto. Kun. What am I, chopped liver? Sakura interrupted Naruto as he was about to speak, but he smiled. Sakura said, a tiny, smug smile on her lips, sorry Shiroi. San, but this is a ninja mission, as such you have no right to join this mission unless you are a shinobi. With a frown, Shiroi squinted her eyes at the girl with pink hair. Ah, but Sakura. San, you forget I am not ninja, and as such I don't fall under the jurisdiction of the Hokage, and because of that I can do whatever I want as long as it doesn't break the laws of Konoha, Shiroi mockingly said, returning her smile with a pleasant and polite one. Tsunade spoke, and Sakura tensed up, opening her mouth to resort. Tsunade acknowledged, siding with Shiroi on this one. Actually, Shiroi is right. Civilians can do whatever the fuck they want so long as it doesn't break Konoha's laws or endanger the village as a whole. And the last time an incident like that ever occurred was back during the clan wars. In addition, she had mistrust for the villagers. The Uchiha massacre repeated because of Shiroi being by himself in the village and the villagers' abject hatred for Naruto. Sakura gritted her teeth in frustration as Shiroi grinned triumphantly. Satisfied that his beloved would be joining him, Naruto nodded. With a happy, silent giggle, Chachizero made a mental note to chop up that girl with the pink hair. What about the Jonin that will be assessing me on the mission? Replied Naruto. Smiled. That Jonin will be waiting for you at the village's south gates. Be prepared, Naruto. This is Akatsuki we are dealing with, they might take this as a perfect opportunity to capture you. Warned Tsunade. With a comforting smile, Naruto said to Tsunade, don't worry Tsunade. Ba-chan. I'll be sure to come back. Naruto said, I'll be waiting at the south gate, Sakura, Shiroi, before vanishing in an instant, leaving Chachizero chuckling contentedly. Before Naruto vanished, Shiroi smiled at him. When he reappeared, she turned to face Sakura and gave her a vacant look. She squinted a little and walked soundlessly in the direction of the door. She glared menacingly at Sakura and then walked out the door. After swallowing, Sakura made her way toward the door, but she halted when Tsunade called out her name. She said, yes, Tsunade. Sama? Sakura. I don't know what your problem is. But if you don't shape up and lost whatever hostilities you have with Shiroi, I promise you, you will regret ever looking at her the wrong way. I understood. Haruno Sakura. Tsunade said with a low voice, glaring piercingly at Sakura. Sakura stammered, her head lowered in submission, why? Yes Tsunade. Sama. Tsunade gave the order, good, now go. Sakura bowed quietly and departed from the room. With doubt, Shizune said, Tsunade. Sama? Shizune. I get the feeling someone in this village is gonna do something stupid. And when that happens, I won't save them from their own foolishness. Tsunade let out a sigh. What do you mean, Tsunade? Sama? Inquired the assistant with black hair. I know you saw it, Shizune. The loving yet possessive look Shiroi would give Naruto. Jiraiya told me that girl was possessive of Naruto, and her possessive gets worse when another female that is Naruto's age is around. Jiraiya told me that despite Shiroi's excellent manners and polite attitude, she can be animalistic and feral when she believes someone or something is trying to take away the person she loves. Tsunade went on to explain. Tsunade finished blankly, staring out her window at the village. I fear that there will come a point in time when another girl in the village is going to try and take Naruto away from her. And Shiroi will instinctively feel the need to mark her territory. And it will be just one large bloodbath. With Shiroi at the top. We can only pray and hope the villagers don't do anything foolish with Naruto or Shiroi. Tsunade. Sama. Shizune replied with solemnity. The blonde Hokage said, yeah. But why'd I get the feeling this is just the calm before the storm? Sasuke sighs in excruciating pain. It was more than he could handle. Such suffering. He uttered 1,000 curses at the person causing him the suffering that he was. How come? Did this really have to happen to him? He was beginning to wonder if leaving Konoha had been a mistake after all. Nope, how else would he have murdered Itachi? Perhaps you're wondering now what was causing Sasuke to groan in agony so much. Well, the solution was really quite straightforward. It is. Tia yelled, twisted and folded Sasuke's arms and legs at strange angles, bitch. Maybe if you practiced your my fucking dinner by the time I get home, jutsu you wouldn't be experiencing this kind of pain. Sasuke felt the strain in his bones, making him grit his teeth. Sasuke managed to utter through the agony, and I told you bitch. I am a Uchiha. I don't make dinner. Bitch. Tia exclaimed, giving Sasuke a hard slap on the head. Don't talk back to your master fucker. Tia continued, twisting and folding the dark-haired boy's arms and legs, but more roughly this time. This time, Sasuke was unable to contain the agonizing scream that burst from his lips, causing Tia to smirk menacingly and darkly. Tia exclaimed with delight, that's right, bitch scream. It tells me I'm doing something right. When Kabuto entered the room, he saw this entire scene with amusement. Seeing Sasuke treated with such kindness was a welcome change of pace. Tia and Sasuke looked at Kabuto as he cleared his throat. Sasuke took advantage of the moment to body flicker away from the enraged harpy. Tia said in a childlike voice, "Hey shit stain. Did Orochimaru finish stretching your ass sideways?" Kabuto twitched, but her only action was to gaze at Sasuke. Sasuke-kun. He started, grinning. Looks like Akatsuki has moved. Then concluded. I have no interest in that organization. My only goal is to find Itachi. And end him. Sasuke murmured. Kabuto retorted, but Sasuke-kun. Did you forget that Itachi is a part of Akatsuki? With a frown, the dark-haired boy said, I could care less. As I said, if it wasn't Itachi that made his move, then I have no interest in their activities. Before leaving the room, the silver-haired spy shrugged silently and said, very Sasuke-kun. I guess I can understand that. Tia slowly turned to face Sasuke after becoming certain that Kabuto had left. Now that the gender-confused bitch is gone. It's time to continue your punishment on why you should practice your make my fucking dinner by the time I get home jutsu. It is a very important jutsu. Now take your punishment like a man. Tia yelled as she charged Sasuke. Sasuke simply avoided the door, used a Chidori spear to smash it, and then bolted out of it. Before flying out the door, Tia let out a cry of rage and anger, "Get back here, bitch." The harpy cried. I wish I could feel sorry for Sasuke. But I just can't for some reason. With plenty of time to spare, Naruto arrived at Konoha's south gates. However, he was almost taken aback by the person who was there before him. The one and only Hitaki Kakashi was there in front of him, appropriately attired in his Anbu uniform, but without his Icha book. With his signature eye smile on his mask. Wearing face, Kakashi said, Yo Naruto. Taicho. Kakashi. Sense. The blonde was interrupted by Kakashi as he raised his hand. Now Naruto. I am no longer your sensei, and we are now of the same rank. So please, call me Kakashi. Senpai, said the masked Jonin. After a few moments of slowly blinking, Naruto smiled a little and nodded. Right, Kakashi. Senpai, he said, tasting his own words. So who else are we waiting for, Naruto? Taicho? Kakashi inquired, tilting his head lazily while happily nodding. Naruto said, Sakura and Shiroi. Chan. Kakashi gave a nod, then looked at the doll upon Naruto's head. He focused his attention on the doll. Did that just grin in his direction? The doll gave Kakashi a happy wave. Kakashi also blinked quickly for a few seconds. The masked Jonin rubbed his eye, and the doll continued to wave at him with joy. When he glanced at the doll once more, it was simply resting like a bed on the blonde's head. Jonin, wearing a mask, shook his head. Most likely, it was insignificant. Yes, it was merely a light trick. Actually, now that I think about it. He had some sake this morning, indeed. No, that isn't possible. He heard humming and shifted his focus from the doll to Naruto's side. When he arrived, Shiroi was standing beside the blonde, humming a soft melody with her eyes closed. Together with his former pupil, who had started to hum along with Shiroi, Kakashi found himself closing his open eye and moving to the music. With her two favorite people, Chachizero started to hummily and joyfully. She then leapt from Naruto's head to Shiroi's head, making a few bystanders who were watching blink owlishly in the process. But as they got closer and Shiroi could smell Sakura's scent, she stopped humming. She frowned for a moment before a kind and courteous smile appeared on her face. She called out loud, grabbing everyone's attention, Sakura. San, so glad you could join us. Sakura simply walked past Shiroi without saying anything. Naruto received a smile from the girl with pink hair, but he returned it with a small frown. Sakura said, Hey Kakashi. Sensei. Long time no see, huh? The masked Jonin shrugged, oh well, it couldn't be helped, ya know. Kakashi blinked, Yo Sakura, it has been a while, hasn't it? The expression on his face changed. The girl with pink hair nodded and parted her lips to say something. Naruto, however, determined that this was the moment to grab everyone's attention. The blonde suddenly called out, "All right, everyone listen up," and got everyone's attention. Our mission is simple. To save Subaku no Gaara from the hands of Akatsuki. First we will move at our top speed through the forests of the Land of Fire. Shortly after we will take a break when we are near the desert. After that we will run through the desert non-stop until we reach Suna. When we reach Suna we will ask for more information regarding the two members of Akatsuki they fought. After that, we will begin our hunt for Gaara and the Akatsuki members who took him. The blonde explained his strategy to the others. Kakashi gave a nod of agreement, acknowledging that although the plan seemed excessive, it would still work. All he could hope was to stay up. I hope these pathetic meatbags can keep up with you and your mate Naruto. Kyuubi responded. Altair gave a nod of agreement. Kyuubi yelled, "See, even the sword agrees with me. Obey me more often, damn you." But the blonde chose to ignore him. Sakura swallowed quietly. She wasn't used to sprinting for extended periods of time, let alone across a desert. Nonetheless, the girl with pink hair noticed Shiro's assured demeanor and gaze. And she had an intense urge to surpass the girl with the white hair. To witness herself. Confidence crumble. With everyone prepared for the mission, Naruto uttered just one word. "Move!" shouted the blonde, and he disappeared through the gates, Kakashi trailing behind. After a brief exchange of intense stares, Sakura and Shiroi exchanged a menacing grin before the white-haired girl vanished from view. Sakura shot a determined glare at Shiroi's retreating form before she quickly disappeared. At last, the moment had arrived. It's time to save your brother Naruto, save from death. It's time to rescue Gaara. The lifeless, unconscious body of Gaara was violently flung into the heart of a dim, ominous cave, where the Jinchuriki's form was dwarfed by a huge statue. 9 additional figures were perched atop the statue's fingers, silently waiting for the precise moment when the sealing would begin. Their serene, expectant faces were directed toward the unconscious Kazekage. The leader of Akatsuki, Pain, stated icily, "The sealing of the Ichibi shall now commence." The man with the ringed eyes waved one hand. Sealing technique. Phantom Dragon's 9 consuming seal. 9 serpents that resembled dragons suddenly erupted from the statue and dove into Gaara's motionless body. As the Ichibi's chakra and spirit started to be forcibly removed from his body, Gaara's eyes snapped open and his mouth opened to let out a silent scream of agony. The sealing of the Ichibi shall take 3 days. So in the meantime, Zetsu makes sure no one interferes. Pain instructed. Prior to disappearing into the wall, Zetsu said, "I understand. Leader. Sama." The other Akatsuki members continued sealing the Ichibi, but they were unaware of a man wearing a spiral mask observing the whole time. This world will soon cease to be so frigid. I, Project Tasuki alone, am powerless to save this world. The masked man thought, there will never be another shinobi world curse, nor will there be losers or winners or loved ones who pass away. Soon. There won't be any more war in the world. Naruto was speeding from tree branch to tree branch with a composed, uninterested expression on his face. Every now and then a tree branch he would tread on would creak and break as his feet left them, demonstrating that even though the blonde didn't appear to be exerting much force with his steps. The blonde appeared composed and in control, but her true nature was quite different. Kyuubi squinted, staring at the whirling mass of hate and rage that was standing in front of him. The whirling mass of darkness spoke to itself, twisted, and began to take shape. It developed legs, arms, a head, a body, and at last, color started to seep into it. This process persisted until the body's coloring was finished. The shadowy figure entered Kyuubi's prison and whatever light was left there, stepped in. It was discovered to have low ponytail, 2 bangs framing his face, and dark golden blonde, spiky hair. Its eyes had black sclera and a brilliant red color without pupils. The only differences between his black robes and Naruto's are the red scarf around his neck and the purple sash around his waist. He also has dark, defined whisker marks on his cheeks. He had a sword fastened to his sash. The sword had the appearance of a raven's head, complete with black raven wings protecting the blade, a dark red leather wrap around the handle, and the raven's eyes glowing ominously. The sheath had a dark purple color and an ominous aura. Overall, this figure resembled Naruto almost exactly. With a feral grin, the carbon copy of Naruto flashed his razor. Sharp wolf teeth. Staring at the dark side of Naruto, Kyuubi murmured, "So you finally finished forming into a physical shape." Yummy. Kyuubi grinned darkly, almost insanely, at the dark side of Naruto. Yami made a fake bow and said, "Yo fur. Ball, nice to meet, ya." Kyuubi squinted his red eyes at the more subdued Naruto. "I don't care for your mocking tone. Filth. You were merely a dark aspect of Naruto that was forgotten and thrown away, isn't that right?" The huge fox laughed. With a fierce scowl, the dark Naruto withdrew his blade and, in an instant, the blade inside the sheath was completely black. He then blurred towards Kyuubi's cage. In an instant, Kyuubi's clawed finger was only an inch from dark Naruto's eye, and the latter's blade was barely brushing Kyuubi's elbow. With unexpected calmness, dark Naruto said, "I see what you're trying to do. You're trying to rile me up, aren't you? You are trying to get me angry enough so that I may enter that blasted cage of yours, then you'll sue the chance to destroy me in my current state, so that Naruto wouldn't have to worry about me being a danger to him. Not that he would find out so quickly." Dark Naruto thought. "I could care less what happens to that kid. My only concern is killing you, so that I wouldn't have to worry about you when I take control of the kid's body," Kyuubi said, narrowing his eyes at the darker version of Naruto. Yami paused as the Kyuubi let out a low, menacing growl. Dark Naruto grinned, "Oh really? Well, that was an interesting thing to say. So if I were to attempt to take over my other half's body right now? Well, looks like you do like the gaki after all, Kyuubi." The darker Naruto remarked, his expression turning into a scowl. The atmosphere was tight and rigid, with the Kyuubi casting a menacing glare at Naruto's darker side. Finally, after 2 minutes, Kyuubi said in a low, dangerous, and silent whisper, "I do not care what you say. I do not care what your goals are. I do not care if your dream is to destroy this world. But if you ever threaten my kid again, I will find a way to utterly destroy you." The dark side of Naruto blanched, wondering to himself if it was a good idea to piss on the Kyuubi. With a gentle shake of his head, Yami sheathed his sword and watched as the Kyuubi gradually withdrew its claw back into its transformation. "Go now, Spectre. You bother me, filth." Kyuubi gave the dark Naruto a stern command. Kyuubi received a withering glare from Yami before it slowly vanished into Naruto's subconscious. The fox narrowed his scarlet eyes as the Kyuubi maintained its stern stare on the precise location of the specter. After a few moments of waiting, Kyuubi rested his head on his forearms and kept his eyes half closed as he was certain that the specter had left. The Kyuubi wondered exactly when this dark Naruto started to take shape. At first, Naruto was secretly a very irate youngster. This was advantageous for the Kyuubi as well, since it would allow it to escape due to the rage inside his container. However, after the arrival of the Sandaime Hokage, Naruto gained patience for his home village. In order to convince the villagers that he posed no real threat, Naruto put on that act of ineptitude. However, the blonde started to believe his own mask as Naruto wore that foolish mask for longer. The dark side of Naruto started to emerge when the blonde forgot he was wearing the mask in the first place. Naruto repressed his feelings of fear, grief, anger, and hatred subtly over the years, until they eventually started to manifest as different facets of his personality. The Kyuubi immediately locked it farther into Naruto's subconscious after realizing there might be a danger to the sanity of the container. And it was very effective for a while. On the other hand, as Naruto and Shiroi grew closer and spent more time together, their love for one another increased. Subconsciously, Naruto became enraged with Konoha for depriving him of all these emotions associated with Shiroi. Furthermore, Shiroi had been unknowingly aiding the darker Naruto's growth while remaining unaware of it. She did this every time she bit Naruto's neck to draw blood, or simply because she was craving a taste of her partner outside of sexual encounters. Shiroi's Yuki would be gradually, almost imperceptibly, taken by Naruto's dark subconscious. It was almost invisible, though, as occasionally Shiroi would take off her neck from Naruto and give it an odd look before shrugging lightly and carrying on with her consumption of the blonde's blood. Kyuubi could recall the precise moment and method by which he had become aware of this change. The giant fox let out a long, drawn out sigh as Kyuubi opened his eyes sluggishly and peered around the sewer that served as Naruto's mindscape. He had actually observed rats possessing more advanced mental landscapes, which was quite remarkable. The Kyuubi wondered what it could accomplish. Could it dream of breaking free from the seal once more? Alternatively, it might just try to fiddle with his container for a short while. Thus, the Kyuubi chose to peer through the eyes of his container, only to witness his container during one more date with Shiroi. The Kyuubi's maw twitched upward, and he made himself sneer. It did not, however, prevent a sense of pride from rising in his chest. After determining that its container deserved whatever privacy he had, the Kyuubi severed the connection. Looking around his mental container once more, Kyuubi silently hoped to find something to occupy his time instead of sleeping. Let it drip, let it drip, let it drip. Kyuubi twitched, casting a dark, withering glare at that pipe that kept dripping. Even if it was his last act, he was going to blow that stupid pipe one day. It was always there, taunting, mocking, demanding that he destroy it. Oh, how Kyuubi wanted to smash that pipe so badly. In fact, if he were to break free from the seal, he would smash that stupid pipe first. Heck, by now, he probably had that fucking thing committed to memory. The pattern remained constant and unchanging. Let it drip, let it drip, let it drip. One drip, one drip, one drip. Let it drip. Oh, the vile and cruel torment. Just as Kyuubi was about to start walking around the cage, he noticed something intriguing. A consistent stream of Yuki that was being subtly diverted. After a brief moment of humming, Kyuubi decided to investigate further after his curiosity got the better of him. He sent himself out of his cage and created a small red eye with a slitted pupil from his chakra. He gave the eye a telepathic command to follow the Yuki stream. The Kyuubi eventually discovered the direction that the stream of Yuki was going after spending several minutes navigating through the sewage maze that was Naruto's mind. And at what he saw, the enormous fox arched an eyebrow. The Yuki stream appeared to be gradually being absorbed into a dark mass blob. Interesting, Kyuubi thought as she fixed her intense gaze on the black mass. But the Kyuubi blinked as the mass twitched, and then it gradually started to take shape. The hand's shape. A hand that was swatting the hell out of him right now. After blinking, Kyuubi let out a low growl and partially expressed his desire to kill. With a satisfied smile on his face, Kyuubi watched the dark mass tremble in fear. But when he realized how familiar this part of Naruto's mind was, he stopped smiling. In actuality, this location resembled the one where he used to be. Sealed the dark side of Naruto. Kyuubi blinked, then focused his attention more intently on the dark blob. He extended his chakra to sense the presence of the blob. And the blob's presence was almost exactly like Naruto's, he grimly confirmed. Just a lot darker. By means of telepathy, the Kyuubi directed the eye he generated from his chakra to approach the dark blob. Subsequently, the shadowy mass quivered, slashing at the chakra eye in an attempt to ingest it. With a raised eyebrow, Kyuubi unleashed his full killing intent, causing the dark mass to tremble and shiver in sheer terror. The Kyuubi smiled, pleased to see you again. Kyuubi wondered what he ought to do with this. Something horrible about Naruto's character. The Kyuubi ultimately concluded that it was best to just destroy it and call it quits. After giving it some thought, the Kyuubi formed a claw out of pure chakra and tried to smash the blob. Attempt is the key word here. The blob of darkness tried to eat the claw right away, lashing out. But the Kyuubi instinctively withdrew his hand and gave the blob a growl, causing it to tremble a little. It seems that I can't just blow you up. I should have destroyed you long ago. As it stands, you will only be at most a nuisance going forward. I suppose this is what's referred to as karma. If I ever get to meet you, damn you karma. I'll kill you, Kyuubi thought to himself. After a final look at the dark blob, the Kyuubi telepathically instructed the chakra eye to dispel. The massive fox said, Naruto. Kyuubi softly started. You better get strong quickly. For you will not only have Akatsuki to worry about, but also this doppelganger off yours. The Kyuubi cast a final look at the dark blob before its chakra. Constructed eye gradually broke into tiny red chakra particles that were absorbed into the red pipe above. The memory made Kyuubi snort, and he couldn't help but wonder what might have happened if he hadn't suppressed Naruto's dark side. Would the blonde have acted more violently, perhaps? Heck, Kyuubi had a sneaking suspicion that Naruto had suppressed the fact that his father had sealed him inside the blonde in order to prevent him from reacting more violently. Naruto would have been very different, the Kyuubi believed, if the blonde had not suppressed his hate and anger. Without a doubt, the Kyuubi would have desired to see that. Now he could picture it. Naruto, his disguise, the fox killer of the elemental nations, snarling and retaliating against the same villagers who had mistreated him. Kyuubi tried not to smile with sheer pride. Rather, he simply rested his head back on his arms and gradually closed his eyes to slumber. After all, there was nothing else to do. But when the Kyuubi sensed Naruto subtly channeling his chakra, his eyes popped open. Hey, this will be entertaining to watch, Kyuubi pondered. Meanwhile, outside the seal, Naruto's speed unexpectedly increased by a tiny amount while he was subtly using Kyuubi chakras. The force of his landings caused the branches he was landing on to creak instantly, and as he pushed forward, they broke completely. After lagging behind Naruto for a few minutes, Kakashi picked up the pace to catch up to Naruto. He opened his mouth to speak once he caught up to the recently promoted Jonin after they both reached the same speed. But when Naruto jerked his head in his direction, he snapped his mouth shut. Kakashi could only see the deadly scowl on the blonde's lower face and the more prominent whisker marks. And inside the blonde's hood, the dazzling yet menacing crimson red eye with slitted pupils that glowed. As Kakashi looked into Naruto's eyes, a chill went down his spine. He shuddered slightly in fear just by gazing into Naruto's now cold, demonic crimson red eyes. It brought back memories of the attack on Kyuubi 16 years ago. For a brief moment, Kakashi felt sympathy for the other Akatsuki. But it lasted for a split second. Yes, Kakashi. Senpai? Naruto questioned in a harsh, beastly voice. Naruto, I'm thinking we should take a little break. I mean, Sakura and Shiroi must be feeling exhausted by now, seeing as we've been moving for 6 hours. Kakashi clarified. The two who were following behind them were glanced at by the blonde and his senior, who was wearing a mask. To Kakashi's amazement, Shiroi was simply keeping up with them while wearing a bored expression. The masked Jonin observed how she would look at something in the forest and then grow bored with it. The small doll perched atop Chachiziro's head appeared to be sleeping, but Naruto knew this wasn't the case because the doll's hand would occasionally twitch to her back. And to the Kyuubi in Naruto, this indicated that the small green-haired doll was becoming agitated, indicating her desire to murder something. Regarding Sakura, well, she was breathing heavily, but that was quickly remedied when the girl with the pink hair took out a soldier pill and quickly consumed it, providing her with much needed energy. Is Sakura becoming addicted to drugs? Sakura appears to be the only one falling behind. Kakashi sighed slightly. Even though Kakashi was aware that he shouldn't pass judgment too quickly, he couldn't help but feel let down. When you consider that Naruto spent 3 years with Jiraiya of the Sannin, you can see that the blonde was undoubtedly an S-rank shinobi by this point, if not higher. Concerning Sasuke, well, Kakashi was certain that the final Uchiha had also grown stronger. Sakura was the only one who didn't appear to get much better. And that came as a little letdown. Sakura was supposed to be a high A-ranked shinobi, or at least a low-level S-ranked shinobi, according to Kakashi. Unfortunately, the girl with pink hair was only a low-level A-ranked shinobi, so it was not meant to be. The masked Jonin let out a sigh and pushed his former student's thoughts from his consciousness. Rather, he turned his focus back to the mission of hurriedly traversing the woodlands and arriving at Suna. Kakashi turned back to face Naruto, who appeared to be reading his thoughts. And his previously icy gaze grew even more so. Kakashi was aware that the blonde's entire attention was on saving Gaara. And that was respected by the masked Jonin. However, Kakashi noticed Sakura giving Shiroi an almost glaring glance before he looked forward again. With one visible eye narrowed, the masked Jonin turned to face the girl with the pink hair. It appeared that he would need to watch Sakura carefully. Sakura, meanwhile, gritted her teeth and found it difficult to keep up with the others. The girl with pink hair looked in Shiroi's direction, her eyes narrowing slightly in a hint of resentment. How was the girl with white hair going to keep up at this speed? The girl also appeared extremely bored, as evidenced by the blank expression on her face. It seemed as though she was simply bored with all of the running. Sakura found it incomprehensible that she could not get tired from all the running she was doing. How could she find any of this boring? It appeared as though she was only participating in this mission because she wanted to, with no regard for the mission at hand. Sakura gave the impression that she could not give a damn about what transpired during this mission. She gave off an indifferent, bored, and heartless look. The girl with pink hair observed Shiroi's habit of abruptly shaking her head when something piqued her interest, only for her to quickly lose interest in whatever she was looking at and return her focus to the path ahead. That infuriated Sakura. But as Tsunade's warning rang in her ears, she refrained from speaking. She was still perplexed as to why Tsunade refrained from trying to beat the girl with white hair. To her, it made no sense at all. The girl with pink hair also didn't trust Shiroi at all. Before they left the village, Shiroi glared at the residents. It seemed as though she was determining whether the village was worthwhile. This made Sakura extremely cautious around the girl. The girl really gave off the impression that she could blow up the whole village without even the slightest regret. Sakura was alarmed by that. The girl was a monster disguised as a human. Sakura felt Shiroi's quick glance in her direction and was abruptly brought back to reality. After exchanging long looks, the girl with the silvery white hair gave the girl with the pink hair a seductive smile. Sakura shuddered and Shiroi appeared to notice, her smile widening a little to show her fangs. Sakura swallowed nervously. Indeed. Sakura was thoroughly unsettled by Shiroi. Shiroi, in the meantime, was giving Sakura a melancholy smile. At last made the decision to let the girl alone. Nevertheless, she mentally noted to repeat that. She only gave her a gloomy smile because she could feel the pink-haired girl staring directly into her eyes. Oh no, not at all, even though it had nothing to do with her desire to frighten the girl with the pink hair. All she wanted was for the girl to stop giving her that evil glare. Everyone is aware that's a lie. Still, something told her that this mission would be enjoyable for Tor. Chatting with Sakura. Shiroi laughed low, dark and malevolent, so that only Chachizero could hear it. The small doll let out an almost uncontrollable giggle and displayed a sinister smile. She had some inkling that Shiroi was going to do something to the girl with the pink hair. She was eager to learn what it was. Naruto, who was outpacing everyone, felt someone was pursuing him from behind and looked over his shoulder. When Kakashi noticed Naruto quickly glance over his shoulder, he turned to look in that direction. Before long, Temari's distinct form revealed itself to them. The sandy blonde quickly caught up to the two Jonin, oblivious to Shiroi's inquisitive expression and Sakura's shocked one. Temari asked, addressing Kakashi directly, "Yo, where's the fire? You guys ran past me pretty quickly, it took me at least 30 minutes to even catch up." With a somber sigh, Kakashi said, "Temari-san, I'm afraid our current mission isn't one of good news." His eyes were visibly darkening. "Oh really? I don't suppose you can tell me?" asked Temari with a raised eyebrow to the idly curious Suna Kunoichi. She was shocked to see Kakashi staring at Naruto's hooded face with a curious expression in his eye. Temari noticed the blonde give a slight nod, and Kakashi returned his focus to her. With Naruto's blessing, the masked Jonin responded, "Actually, our mission involves Suna Temari-san." Since the blonde was in charge of the mission, Kakashi should ask Naruto's permission before disclosing the specifics of their mission to anyone. Temari demanded, "Why? What's wrong with Suna?" in a harsh voice. Kakashi was about to speak, but Naruto spoke before him. With a chilly, uncaring voice, Naruto said, "To be it bluntly, Temari-san, Akatsuki has finally made their move. They've attacked Suna. And Gaara has been captured." The brunette said. Temari's eyes grew wide, then she clenched her teeth and directed additional chakra into her feet. "If that's the case, then I'd like to ask. As the ambassador of Suna, I would like you to save my brother." Temari replied. Mentally snickered. "I was planning on saving Gaara anyway, I didn't need you to ask me that. I'm saving Gaara because he is my friend. And also my brother in all but blood. For not only similar, but also our burdens." The blonde with a hood replied. Temari looked at Naruto in shock, then her face softened. She said in a whisper, "Thank you." Naruto and Kakashi both heard her words. Kakashi was content to give a quick pat and a grin. Naruto smiled slightly at her, but then his face went black once more. The blonde gave the sword by his side a quick glance. Altair. Why have I been feeling like you're getting a little nervous? The blonde pondered, surprised that the Kyuubi would respond. The giant fox remarked, Naruto, there are only two reasons why Altair would be feeling uneasy, as you put it. How you phrased it. You say that like Altair isn't nervous. Naruto arched an eyebrow in response. That's because Altair isn't uneasy. Altair is more excited than uneasy. How specifically excited? Altair is only this excited for two reasons. 1. He's excited about drawing the blood of your enemies. And the final reason. You might be close to his grave site. And precisely what did you mean when you said his grave? The grave site of Uzumaki Urashi. The blonde's eyes grew a little wider. What? Is he not? That's right, Naruto. The creator and first wielder of Altair. What? Do you mean to tell me that this is the approximate location of Uzumaki Urashi's grave? No, of course not. What I'm saying is that you are nearing Urashi's grave site. I don't know where it's at exactly. But judging by how Altair is getting more and more excited, I would bet that Urashi's gravesite is somewhere in the desert near Suna. Near Suna, huh? Naruto pondered. That's right, Naruto, now do me a favor and focus on your objective. You can worry about Urashi's grave at a later point in time. Your friends come first, do they not? Kyuubi responded. I get it. The blonde answered, after I saved Gaara, I was going to explore the gravesite anyhow. With a tiny snort, Kyuubi withdrew back into his cage. The blonde returned his focus to the road ahead of him. He had to save Gaara, and he would. He was determined to keep going after Gaara, unlike some villagers who had given up on him as soon as they learned of his burden. He promised to support Gaara as a companion, sibling, friend, and family unit. He promised to fight for Gaara's survival and be there when she awoke. And he would surely arrive before any of the Akatsuki members could utter the word, Biju. He gave Altair a little finger. Oh, how he wished he could chop up every single Akatsuki member. Perhaps he has absorbed some of Chachiziro's essence. In the meantime, Chachiziro felt an overwhelming impulse to strut her stuff. Still, Naruto gave his newfound apparent anger little thought. After all, there was only one thing on his mind. Preserving Gaara. There was tension in the air and oddly chilly. It was so terrifying that it might have sent a shiver of mild fear down your spine. Since a member of the Hyuga branch was escorting her down the halls, Ino was honestly surprised by the feeling. The explanation for her presence at the Hyuga manor. It was simple enough to be home to one of Konoha's most powerful clans. She desired to talk to Hyuga Hinata, the clan's heiress. The girl with the platinum blonde hair desired to discuss Shiroi. No, Shiroi Uzumaki. And check to see if the girl with the white hair could be helped. Dumb little Yamanaka, you have no idea how stupid it would be to try to stop Shiroi. After all, she's my OC, and I'm freaking terrified of her. The girl with blonde hair gave the Hyuga branch member a quick glance. Whom, expressionless, was leading her down the hall. As they approached the living room of the main branch, Ino noticed a tiny flash of fear despite the expressionless expression on his face. Ino arched an eyebrow, wondering why this Hyuga was acting so scared. If her understanding is accurate, none of the branch members have ever been subjected to the caged bird seal by the clan head, Hyuga Hiyashi. But why was he acting so tight? The branch member tapped her shoulder, startling her out of her reverie. Yes? The blonde inquired, glancing over at the Hyuga. Without showing any emotion, the Hyuga replied, "We have arrived, Yamanaka." San. The Hyuga's entire stance was stiff and impassive, but Ino, a shinobi, could still feel the slight tension between his shoulder blades. His eyes were giving every direction a quick glance every few seconds, as if he was getting ready for a fight to the death. Though Ino was unsure of what could have caused him to become so tense, something told her she would soon find out. When the member of the Hyuga branch opened the doorway into the main branch lobby, Ino was met with a scene that almost made her pass out from shock. Hinata was standing in the center of the space. The head of the clan and Hyuga, with raven hair, were seated across from each other. Although Hyuga Hiyashi was keeping a straight face, Ino could see a cold sweat form at the back of his neck. The obvious cause of this was Hinata, the shy girl that everyone was familiar with, was giving her father a glare. There was also a sketched portrait of Shiroi on the table. Furthermore, Ino was unaware of how precisely they had captured the image of the girl with white hair. Ino casually observed that the Hyuga who had accompanied her was present, even though the two of them didn't appear to be aware of her. Had already made a beeline for the exit. Dude, what a coward you are. The blonde with platinum hair chose to hold off on making her presence known for a few more minutes. 2. Sama, the raven. Haired beauty said with a harsh glare on her face. Why have you not yet begun a search for a girl of this appearance? Hinata asked coldly. The leader of the Hyuga tribe took a small swallow. I told you dozens of times, Hinata. I cannot simply send Hyuga shinobi to find out about a girl who does not exist. Hiyashi grumbled. 2. Sama, I'm telling you that this girl does in fact exist. She's been inside my head, too. Sama. Hinata exclaimed, her voice laced with anger. Her eyes narrowed. Hiyashi retorted, and as far as I'm concerned, that was your imagination. Hinata gritted her teeth and gave her father a menacing glare. She exclaimed, she is real too. Sama. With a sharp, clammy glare at his daughter, Hiyashi yelled back, and yet you have no proof of such a claim. Hinata gave her father a fierce, angry glare. Was he not able to recognize that this girl posed a direct and dangerous threat? In addition, she sensed that this girl and Naruto were close. Identify it as an intuition. But all of a sudden, as she was daydreaming about Naruto, she saw a mental picture of the girl. She had a mental picture of a girl with silvery white hair and pink slits in her eyes. And just as the girl appeared to be glaring at her, she simply vanished. Even though Hinata didn't know the girl's identity, she was determined to learn. By any means required. The raven. Haired Hyuga exclaimed, she does exist too. Sama. I know it. No. I can feel it. It's like she's standing right next to me. Mocking me. With equal intensity, the clan head shot back, and I say this is all just a figment of your imagination. At last, Ino made the decision to come forward. By clearing her throat gently. Despite being done quietly, it had the intended outcome. The two Hyugas ceased their fierce competition and cast a sidelong glance at Ino. With a dispassionate glance, Hinata acknowledged Ino with a nod. Hiyashi gave the Yamanaka air a narrowed look before giving the girl with platinum hair a small nod in greeting. Hiyashi inquired, Yamanaka. San. What brings you here? But Ino knew it was more than a question. It was an order. With a courteous bow, Ino spoke as respectfully and modestly as she could. After all, she was speaking with a chief of a clan. She was also instructed to show respect to all clan elders and heads. I was hoping I may speak with Hinata on a private matter. Hyuga. Sama. Hiyashi looked at the Yamanaka for a few seconds and then gave a small nod. Hiyashi replied, very well, I will allow it. However, Hinata. We will continue this conversation later. Understood? The head of the Hyuga clan shot Hinata a cold look. It was also evident that this was an order rather than a request. Hinata gave her father a nod. She really did want to talk to her father about this more. She refused to accept that this girl was a figment of her imagination, regardless of what her father said. Hiyashi looked at her oldest daughter one last time before leaving the space. He gave the Yamanaka a slight narrowing of the eyes and closed the door. Now that her father had left the room, Hinata focused on the blonde Yamanaka who was in front of her. With a slight smile on her face, Hinata said, hello Ino. San. It's been a while, hasn't it? Yeah, it definitely has been a while, huh? Hinata? The platinum blonde asked with a smile, turning to the raven. Haired Hyuga. Hinata gave a small chuckle before a gentle frown appeared on her face. With some confusion and curiosity, she questioned, so why are you here? If I recall correctly, you said you wouldn't enter the Hyuga compound even if the world should come to an end. Hinata asked, and Ino answered by pointing straight at the intricately drawn portrait of Shiroi. She said, a little hazily, "Who made that picture?" "I met that girl before." Hinata's eyes darted to Ino's form, and the drawing of the girl in front of her. Her eyes slightly narrowed. How had she met this girl before? "I drew the picture of this girl. I don't know how, but all of a sudden the image of this girl came to mind. And oddly enough, a type of chill went down my spine. The type of chill that said I was treading on dangerous grounds. The thing is, I don't know what grounds I was treading on," Hinata surmised. However, she continued, "I had a feeling that this girl existed, and I told my father of this. However, as you can see, he refuses to believe me." She finished. Ino pursed her lips, and she debated on whether or not she should tell Hinata about the white-haired girl she was talking about. The pros and cons of the information she could share with Hinata would be useful, and quite possibly useless. However, Ino only knew one thing. She wanted Shiroi out of Konoha. With that mindset, she quickly told Hinata what she knew of the girl. About how they first met inside her mind. Her possessive personality when it involves Naruto, her frightening and animalistic rage, her superior and arrogant attitude when she met her in person. And finally, her apparent engagement to Naruto, making her his fiancé. When Hinata heard that, the poor teacup she held in her hands suddenly shattered into millions of pieces, showering the floor and couch with shards of glass and tea. And even though Hinata kept a blank expression on her face, Ino could detect the raging male storm that was boiling beneath the surface. The only thing Hinata could think about was finding this Shiroi and chat with her. She wanted to meet this girl in person, wrap her hands around that delicate neck of hers, and choke the life out of the white-haired girl. She didn't care if she could face a life sentence in prison. She wanted that girl dead. No takes away her Naruto Kun and gets away with it. So she would bide her time, and wait for the perfect opportunity to meet with the girl, and politely demand that she renounce her relationship with Naruto. And then, just as she had been dreaming for so long, Naruto would be hers. Forever. However, a small part of Hinata told her that she should stop what she's doing, as it would only end badly for her, but she didn't listen to that small part of her. In her eyes, that white-haired slut was getting in the way of her and Naruto, and she wouldn't allow that. With that in mind, she and Ino started to discuss potential plans for getting Shiroi out of the village, never noticing the narrowing of a pair of Byakugan eyes at their intentions. Silently, the eye's owner moved away from the door, and moved rapidly, but silently, at a steady, urgent pace down the hallway. What his cousin was about to do made Hyuga Neji furrow his brow, and he would not permit it to occur. Ultimately, it was Naruto who liberated him from his fixation on fate, and spared him a life of unadulterated animosity toward his tribe. He had a huge debt to the blonde that would never be paid back. Therefore, if it involved his cousin and Naruto, on this, he would take Naruto's side. Hinata would let Naruto choose who he wants to be with if she really loved him. And if it was beyond her to accept that, then, he would need to ensure that Hinata avoided Naruto as much as possible, and this, as much Shiroi as you can. And the first step in doing this was discussing the situation with his uncle. While he waited for his uncle to come into his office, Hyuga Neji grimaced. His purpose in coming here was to warn his uncle of the impending danger posed by Hinata's fixation on the one and only Uzumaki Naruto. But the truth was, he was becoming increasingly enraged by the moment that went by. Why was the usually cool-headed Hyuga so furious? Might I ask? Well, the solution was really quite easy. He has been holding out inside his uncle's workspace for the previous 3 hours. 3 hours, fucking. Neji was not sure if he should be annoyed or furious. Wait, isn't being irritated and furious the same thing? Oh wait, no, it isn't. Oh well. Neji was aware of one thing, though. If his ass didn't arrive in the next 2 minutes, he was going to give his uncle a hard time. The long-haired Hyuga started mentally counting down the timer in his head as he finished thinking. What should he have for supper this evening, Or perhaps some onigiri? No, that's what he's had for the last 7 nights. Pork and rice? No, that was far too typical. What would be a nice, welcome change for dinner, Could he perhaps have some dango? Oh, please, no. Thank you, Hi-A. Ranked Jonin torture specialist with purple hair and trench coat. He did not want to take a chance on meeting her. She also gave him the creeps. In the meantime, Mitarashi Anko had an intense desire to frighten a Hyuga to no end. Rejoining Neji. The Hyuga was still undecided about what to have for supper. Perhaps he could get some. Not at all stale. Perhaps a few. Not to sound corny. Whoa. He might be able to get some. Not overly sweet. Hyuga, who had long hair, sighed before an idea struck him. Perhaps he could try some of the ramen that Naruto frequently enjoyed. Trying it couldn't go wrong. Who knows? It may taste exactly as delicious as Naruto has always claimed. In the meantime, Naruto was preparing a campsite close to the boundary between the wind and the land of fire so that his group could take a break. Abruptly turned to face the sky. The blonde said in a whisper, arching an eyebrow inside the Kyuubi, "Someone has been coveted to the greatness that is ramen." As Altair trembled, fearing for the sanity of his wielder. Rejoining Neji. Hyuga, who had dark hair, made the decision to purchase ramen for dinner, if only to find out why Naruto was initially so enthused about it. The sound of the door behind him opening startled him out of his reverie. To his relief, it was his uncle who was entering the office as he slowly turned to face him. When he looked at the clock, he almost jerked. He was literally seconds away from receiving a reprimand. But since the clan chief arrived 8 seconds early, he was safe. The fortunate bastard. Hiyashi arched an eyebrow at the sight of Neji. Why was his nephew present at all? Hiyashi then abruptly recalled that his nephew had wanted to talk to him about a crucial issue. Additionally, he was significantly late due to a meeting he had with the elders of the clan. Oh no. He simply ruined his own appearance, especially in front of his nephew. The idea itself was terrifying. Hiyashi only hoped Neji wouldn't claim that he was turning into a Hyuga version of Kakashi. Nobody desires to resemble Kakashi. Neji inquired or demanded, "Good afternoon, Hiyashi. Sama. May I incline as to what took you so long?" Hiyashi arched an eyebrow, indicating that his nephew was becoming impatient once again. Most likely a bad thing. All he could do was hope his nephew could get some of his patience back. A Hyuga wouldn't want to lose his temper, after all. They had an extremely valuable reputation to maintain. Though the majority of the Hyuga might be a little eccentric within the district of the clan. He wondered absently what would happen if he disregarded Neji's inquiry. But sensibly decided against carrying out that action. He didn't want to ruin his nephew's meager reserve of patience, after all. A side note, forcing him to spend more than 3 hours inside that dreaded meeting, damn the clan elders. He was forced to hear them quarrel endlessly about the most insignificant topics. It doesn't matter if the kitchen's cookie jar broke, darn it. Hiyashi said, settling into his chair. The meeting with the clan elders went longer than I expected. Neji. God, he was in love with this chair. It was fluffy, warm, and incredibly soft. Alright, so he likes to use different animal furs to adorn his chair. Who are you to pass judgment? Neji asked idly, his curiosity getting the better of him. May I ask what the meeting between you and the elders was about? Hiyashi maintained a neutral expression on his face, although he was perspiring slightly on the inside. Damn it, Neji, and his innate curiosity. I hold you responsible for this, bastard, Hizashi. The Hyuga leader thought, now Neji has your damn curiosity you did when you reached his age. He reminisced about all the enjoyable times he shared with his brother, as well as how their curiosity frequently led to the most eccentric situations. Similar to when they were apprehended while attempting to enter the Uchiha compound covertly. His brother was intrigued by the Uchiha and their way of life, so in some way he persuaded him to enter the Uchiha compound covertly. That was a day to remember for sure. In addition, it was his first encounter with Uchiha Fugaku. Fugaku was merely the Uchiha clan's heir at the time, and like all Uchiha, he was a little conceited. Upon discovering 2 Hyugas within the clan compound, he promptly issued a challenge to a duel for both Hiyashi and his brother. Concurrently. Naturally, the conceited little Uchiha was defeated by 2 Hyugas. The Uchiha, on the other hand, threw a fit and claimed that they had cheated because it was 2-on-1. But Hiyashi made it clear that he believed he could defeat them both, and that's why he wanted to fight them both at the same time. The Uchiha blushed in shame and stopped talking after that. The Uchiha heir then inquired as to whether they would like to be friends. Despite the rivalry between the two clans, Hiyashi and Hizashi agreed. They were at last old enough to enroll in the academy after 2 years. The trio met their best friend there as well, Minato Namikaze. Although Hiyashi was sure that Fugaku and Minato knew they were best friends, they were still competitors. However, Fugaku had grown aloof after Minato's passing, and eventually Fugaku severed all ties with them. But Hiyashi and Hizashi dismissed it, thinking Fugaku was just teasing about Minato's passing. Now that I think about it, isn't Minato almost exactly like the Kyuubi Jinchuriki? No, it's not possible, is it? Hold off for now. The boy went by Uzumaki. Did he not know there was another Uzumaki? Was it Kushina Uzumaki? The one about whom Minato spoke constantly? Furthermore, didn't they date for a while? Additionally, Minato declared that he was marrying her. Holy fucking shit. And fuck me until Tuesday at the latest. How could I have missed it? Hiyashi thought to himself in shock. The Jinchuriki Kyuubi is one of my closest friend's sons. And throughout it all, I've dismissed him as some anonymous brat. Additionally, the Hamlet has handled him as Kami. All of us have been such idiots. However, I'm sure that others might have been aware as well. But to whom? Hiyashi considered this, compiling a list of potential witnesses. Jiraiya. Sama is undoubtedly aware of the reality, and Sandame. Sama is another. Maybe Hitaki. San too, but then again, who else? Tsunade. Sama, being the Hokage, will undoubtedly be aware of this. Makoto. Kushina's closest pal. It makes sense why she attempted to adopt Naruto whenever she had the chance. However, the civilian council had consistently made it difficult for that to actually occur. The head of the Hyuga clan checked to see if there were any other individuals who might be aware of this. Given that nearly nothing can get past Shikaku, I'm sure he would be aware of this. Additionally, since Shikaku, Inoichi, and Shoza spend a lot of time with Minato, they must also be aware of it. It makes sense that the three had nothing but praise for Naruto. Amazing. I've been staring at the truth for a very long time. However, I was blind to it. Hiyashi laughed wryly and melancholically. Hey, my time as a clan head instead as a shinobi on the front lines has dulled me. Minato. How would you react to everything your son has been through in this village? It's humorous. I doubt the village would have treated your son like royalty if they had known the truth about him. Similar to the boy from Uchiha. Tay. The mere thought of it infuriates me. But I'm not allowed to speak. Given that I most likely would have followed suit. Hee. Uncle Hiyashi could have been me. UN else. Uncle. Uncle. Hiyashi blinked and looked into his nephew's expectant and irritated face. Yes, Neji? The leader of the Hyuga clan questioned, raising an eyebrow. You didn't answer my question. What took you so long with the clan elders? Hiyashi replied in a casual way, oh, nothing of importance. Just the usual barb here and there. Neji arched an eyebrow at his uncle's phrase, but remained silent and chose to get right to the point. He had spent the last 3 hours seated in this fucking chair. He could feel his ass going numb and he did not want to sit in that damn chair any longer. Very well, uncle. I will not incline any more as to what the clan meeting was about. Agreed, Neji. With a relieved sigh, Hiyashi turned to look at his nephew with a kind of surreptitious curiosity. So, may I ask why you wanted to speak with me, Neji? He inquired. Neji inhaled deeply to get himself ready for the impending discussion. He stated bluntly and directly to the point, I think we should keep an eye on Hinata. Sama when Naruto San returns from his mission in Suna. With an eyebrow raised, Hiyashi questioned, and why is that? Neji? Hiyashi asked, please enlighten me. He seemed to know what this was all about. He had heard the gossip about Naruto's fiancée, after all. Along with many other Hyuga in the clan, he also witnessed Hinata's fury upon discovering that small piece of knowledge. In spite of the rumor, she was called back into the clan compound by him so that she could have her weekly spar with Hanabi, but she was powerless to stop him. She was furious that day, for sure. He was fairly certain that Hanabi was still tending to all of her bruises after she had completely destroyed her in that spar. Which brings to mind that he and the elders are still at odds over who he should brand with the caged bird seal. He really didn't want to seal any of his daughters, damn it. What parent, after all, would want to seal their daughter inhumanely? That is something that only a heartless jerk would permit. Neji said more than inquired, I assume you've heard the rumors about Naruto. San's fiancé? Uncle. Who the hell hasn't heard of Uzumaki Shiroi? Hiyashi nodded silently. Not only was she Uzumaki Naruto's fiancé, but she also appeared to be friendly with the Hokage, making her the talk of the entire village. It was shocking to hear that Tsunade approved of this engagement because everyone in the village knew how she treated Naruto like a mother would. The clan head said nonchalantly, not really believing the rumors, yes, I heard about the rumors about Naruto. San's fiancé. However, they're just that. Rumors. Neji broke Hiyashi's illusions by clearing his throat and saying, those rumors are in fact real, uncle. While appearing as composed as a cucumber on the inside, Hiyashi was jumping with excitement on the outside. Why? You mean Naruto? San is actually engaged? He asked numbly. Huh. Fugaku and Minato. I was certain that, by the time he turned 16, Naruto would tie the knot. Hiyashi thought to himself, now if only you two were alive, that way I can get my money, and then shrugged. Even if getting his damn money requires him to go to the afterlife. In the meantime, Minato, who was imprisoned inside the Shinigami's stomach alongside the other three past Hokage, suddenly felt that, should Hiyashi ever manage to escape the stomach of the Shinigami, he should steer clear of him. How do you know this rumor is true, Neji? Last I checked, it was yet to be confirmed, and did you not just return from a mission? Hiyashi inquired. I did in fact return from a mission, however, before Naruto San left for his mission. I was only just able to catch a glimpse of him leaving the village with a white-haired girl, Sakura. San, and Hitaki. San. Also I overheard Hinata Sama conspiring with Yamanaka. San on. Separating Naruto San from Shiroi. San. The name of Naruto. San's fiancé. Neji clarified as he observed his uncle's perplex. With a nod of comprehension, Hiyashi scowled at the plot involving his daughter and the Yamanaka. It appears that he would need to discuss this with Inoichi. Hiyashi ordered, his voice changing from being easygoing to harsh, icy, and menacing. Continue, Neji. Neji had nicknamed this Hiyashi's clan head mode. I have reason to believe that Hinata Sama has become obsessive over Naruto San, and I believe that, should the chance provide itself, she will attempt to either separate Shiroi San from Naruto, or attempt to kill her. Neji said with hesitation. Hiyashi gazed at his nephew, expressionless. Before, all of a sudden, he started to feel furious. How dare Hinata plot someone's death? Furthermore, not only is this Shiroi not a registered shinobi, but she is therefore still a civilian in a sense. Does Hinata not understand the consequences of trying to kill a village resident? Laws are in place to stop shinobi from misusing their position of power. Additionally, this was the epitome of a shinobi abusing their power. But Hiyashi knew one thing. If she finds out, the Hokage will genuinely have no mercy at all. He believes that they are plotting not only to harm a civilian, but also to specifically target Naruto's fiancé. And everyone was aware of Tsunade's fatherly affection for Naruto. It makes sense that her rage would be viewed as atomic. No, that's not the correct term. A better description would be world-shattering. With a neutral and blank voice, Hiyashi stated, I can't exactly do anything about this, Neji. At least not without evidence. The long Haired Jonin offered his uncle a determined glare and said, "I understand, uncle. That is why I wish to keep an eye on Hinata Sama. 2. Both sabotage and delay whatever plans she may have." Hiyashi closed his eyes silently, considering whether or not to permit this. To begin with, though, he was also likely to blame for this. He was aware of Hinata's romantic interest in the Uzumaki, just like a large number of Hyuga clan members. But he thought it was just that. A fondness. A crush that would have eventually worn off, no doubt. But it appears he was mistaken. Completely incorrect. It appears that the girl's lust for the boy has only grown. Hiyashi let out a sigh. He knew that ignoring his crush would eventually bite him in the rear. He closed his eyes and considered whether or not to follow Neji's advice. On the one hand, Hinata will probably do something foolish if he doesn't, which will reflect poorly on the clan. Conversely, though, to start, this would be seen as a clan issue. However, it is nearly hard to spy on a Hyuga. However, Neji was aware of the Byakugan's weakness, just like the majority of higher-level Hyuga. If only he could remain in Hinata's Byakugan's weakness. Then there might be a chance for him. "Neji, I have considered your proposal, and I have decided that we will go through with this plan of yours. From now on, you are to keep a close eye on Hinata and the Yamanaka. And I want that whenever you sabotage a plan of theirs, I want those plans to be considered no longer manageable. Understood?" Hiyashi responded. His tone was stern and icy. Appropriate for the head of a clan. Neji stoically nodded. Neji muttered to himself, "I understand, Hiyashi Sama. I will perform this mission to the best of my abilities. And for Naruto's sake as well." He gave his uncle one last bow and quietly left the room. Hiyashi used his Byakugan to confirm that his nephew had left. Looked at one of his most valued items. A photo of him with his late wife Minato and a woman with red hair named Kushina. "Minato, your son must make you proud." Hiyashi sighed gravely, appearing to grow older. "Yet so disappointed in your village for not following your wishes," he thought to himself. He spent several more minutes gazing at the photo, prior to him starting his paperwork solemnly. The thing was at least 14 inches tall, and he just stared at it. When he entered this room, wasn't that thing 10 inches? Minato's smiling photo burst into a smile. And it laughed at Hiyashi's expression of perplexity and terrifying realization. But when Hiyashi cast a glance in its direction, it reverted to its original state. "Someone. Give Ghostbusters a call already, please. That's most likely not normal. However, I'm sure you guys will ignore me anyhow, don't you?" Ultimately, nobody pays attention to the writer. Hiyashi gazed at the photograph for a short while before turning back to the source of his misery. Oh, how he wanted to use a fire-style jutsu to burn that damn thing. Peer at it as it sits there, making fun of him. Without saying anything more, Hiyashi started writing on the damn paper. Though he wished he knew how Minato completed his paperwork so swiftly. Glancing at the pink-haired Kunoichi next to her, Shiroi frowned. They were almost at the boundary between the land of wind and its exact edge. Furthermore, Shiroi still had plenty of energy to run there, back to Konoha, and still have enough left over to completely screw Naruto. However, the issue was, Sakura failed to do so. They had to spend the night camping as a result, but they did make great progress. All they needed to do was race through the desert the following day, and presto. In 2.5 days, they will reach Suna, smashing the previous record. But if the girl with the pink hair kept slowing them down, Shiroi would then be able to handle getting rid of her. If nothing else, she was sure Chachizero would find it hilarious to think that she was chopping up her body and sprinkling the pieces all over the clearing. Well, perhaps if she killed Sakura, she could claim it was an accident caused by a falling tree branch. All she needed was a tree branch big enough to pull it off. Anyhow, together with a giddy Chachizero, Naruto, Kakashi, and the others had left the camp to gather wood and go food hunting. But Temari had no intention of waiting for them to show up. Had left to continue the journey to her village in order to assist as much as she could, plus the knowledge that her village was undoubtedly in disarray. She did, however, make a commitment to meet them when they get to the village gates. With that, everyone is leaving to complete their assigned tasks. This left Sakura by herself, alongside Shiroi. Sakura was very tired, and Shiroi was darkly amused and a little bit sadistic. Sakura plus Shiroi equals carnage. Shiroi trailed, trying not to show off her happy tone of voice as she said, "So." She made no other movements, save for a small flash of her eyes. Sakura looked at the white hired girl warily and said, "Why?" "Yes?" As she struggled to gather her strength. She took a swallow. Right now, she didn't feel safe. Her emerald green eyes glanced around for a moment. It was as if a lioness was staring at her. A big, dangerous lioness with teeth that shone in the moonlight and extremely sharp claws. But for the life of her, she couldn't believe that the only chakra signatures she was picking up were those of herself, Shiroi, Kakashi, and Naruto, all of whom were at least a mile apart. I.e., she was by herself with this monstrous. Curious, Shiroi asked, "Sue, how long have you been apprenticed to Tsunade?" Even so, she never lost the gloomy, joyful sparkle in her eyes. She wondered idly what the blood of the pink-haired girl tasted like. Prior to her dismissing that idea, it most likely tasted tactless and repulsive. Furthermore, she would not allow the pink-haired girl's blood to come into contact with her sensitive palate. The dark gleam in Shiroi's eyes made Sakura shudder, and she wondered absently if she should bolt, screaming. "How long have you been engaged to Naruto?" asked the girl with pink hair in response. With a gentle wink, Shiroi began to speak. "Touché, touché. Wench," she said in an insulting tone that had a tinge of conceit. Sakura asked angrily, growling, "What did you just call me?" "That's right, you little pink slut," Shiroi grinned. "Give me a cause to annihilate you totally." The white-haired girl thought, "Now come, and play right into my trap," before speaking out. With a mocking smirk on her face, she said, "I called you a wench. Does your brain not have the capacity to understand my words? Maybe if I speak slowly. Will that work out better for you?" Her pink, slitted eyes narrowed a little. Sakura spat back, glaring angrily at Shiroi and starting to shake with rage. "I am not a wench. You whore," she screamed. Her hands clenched and then unclenched. With a sly chuckle, Shiroi watched the pink-haired girl fall straight into her trap. Now she just needed to push her far enough so that the last part of her plan could start. The white-haired vampire, her grin getting bigger and bigger, taunted, "Strange how you would call someone else a whore, when you should really be looking into the mirror. Such an ugly and overly large forehead as well," she continued. Sakura's fists were clenched so tightly that she was drawing blood as she gritted her teeth in a boiling hot rage. "At least I do not look like a child with that small body of yours," she replied. There was a tick mark on Shiroi's head. She did, however, continue to wear that charming and mocking grin. Despite her desire to tear the girl with pink hair to pieces for her remark, Shiroi said more than inquired, "And tell me, who is the one Naruto is engaged to?" Smirking haughtily at the pink-haired Kunoichi. "Te. You probably seduced the idiot, but then again Naruto has always been an idiot. So you probably seduced him, and like the idiot he was, he fell for it." Sakura sighed. "But don't worry, before this mission is done, I'll make sure Naruto is back feeding from my hands instead of yours," she replied with a confident smirk. Shiroi's eyes narrowed dangerously, and a low, feral growl escaped her throat. How daring of that little slut with pink hair. That bitch had another thing coming if she believed she could successfully woo Naruto. Ultimately, during Naruto's training expedition, she had laughed and enjoyed playing the role of Lil Seductress to the blonde. Despite their relationship, she enjoyed acting as the alluring girl and he as the nervous, bashful boy who would always stutter when she used her charms. Soon, they had made it into a game, with Shiroi acting as the seductress in an attempt to make Naruto stutter. And Naruto would make an effort to maintain his composure. Thus far, the result was Shiroi number 531. Moreover, Naruto 9. In fact, the blonde had grown so accustomed to it that he no longer blushes when a different girl makes an attempt to woo him. Shiroi was very clear in telling other girls not to try again. But when she did, she was in love with the way he looked, especially his flushed face. Being the only one who could get Naruto in that way felt amazing. It was absurd to think that this slutty woman with pink hair could entice her partner. In fact, Shiroi was laughing so hard at the thought that she was crying inside. HMPH. I suppose someone like you, somewhat reserved, could never compete with Naruto. Particularly in intimate settings. The fair-haired girl uttered, her smile turning ferocious and sly. W. What? D. Don't T. Tell me. Sakura trailed off. Shiroi laughed and peered menacingly into Sakura's eyes. Oh yes. You don't know, do you? Her smile grew wider and her fangs were once again visible. Me and Naruto had already confessed our love for each other long ago. All that was left was to tie the knot, and that was exactly what we did. We didn't stop until morning. That made Sakura blush a deep shade of red, before she glared at the white-haired girl. I knew it. You did seduce him, I guess I should not be surprised. Naruto was always an idiot. And you will always be the weakest link to Team 7. Isn't that why you're oh so precious, Sasuke-kun, left? So he didn't have to deal with your pathetic existence? Or maybe he left because he was so tired of you whoring yourself to him. Shiroi mused, a dark smirk on her face. That made Sakura snap. With a furious cry of, Shanaru. Sakura lunged at the white-haired girl, her fist pulled back. And the pink-haired girl channeled chakra into her strike to further increase the damage of her punch. Shiroi merely rose an eyebrow of surprise. She didn't think that the pink-haired wench knew the secret behind Tsunade's strength. Though if you think about it, it sounds quite easy to simply channel chakra into your strikes. However, the amount of chakra control needed for such a thing was simply put, near impossible. That's why Shiroi was half impressed with Sakura at the moment. Half impressed being the keyword. Even though Sakura knew how to increase the strength of her attacks, she was not a master of the technique. As a result, it was nothing against Shiroi's vampire-enhanced strength. With a bored look in her eyes, Shiroi raised her hands to stop Sakura's attack in its tracks. However, Shiroi stopped when she felt two familiar chakra signatures speed towards their location. With a smirk on her face, Shiroi masked her emotions, and she widened her eyes in feigned shock. Sakura didn't know what happened. 1 second she was charging at Shiroi with the intent to kill, the next. She's laying face down on the ground, with a weight on her back, and her right arm twisted tightly to her back painfully. She could tell immediately that she was being restrained by someone, but by who was a question she wanted answered. The pink-haired Chunin grit her teeth in pain when she felt her arm being twisted even more tightly when she only struggled lightly. She was about to start ranting when a cold and seething voice filled her ears. Sakura. What did you think you were doing? Huh? Do you realize what you were going to do? You're lucky I stopped you. Otherwise Naruto would have taken your head clean off. Kakashi harshly said, in cold fury, and the coldness in his voice made Sakura shiver lightly. Kaka. Sakura tried to say. However, she was cut off as Kakashi twisted her arm more tightly. Don't, Sakura. Now I am going to ease the pressure on your arm so you can see what I meant about Naruto taking your head clean off. Kakashi said, the cold edge still in his voice. Wordlessly Sakura nodded, and Kakashi slowly eased the pressure on her. Just enough so she could lift her head. And what she saw made her gulp in slight fear. In front of her, with his back to Shiroi as he stood in front of the white-haired girl in a protective manner, was Naruto. However, he was currently glaring at the pink-haired girl with anger evident in his eyes. Altair was drawn outside of its sheath, and the blade itself was giving off a menacing and furious red aura. And the green-haired doll on his head seemed to be giving her a manic and dark look of pure and sick glee. However, the pink-haired girl had her attention on the thin line of bright red droplets falling from the blade's tip. And she suddenly became aware of the stinging pain on her throat. And she realized that with a start, that if Kakashi hadn't stopped her, she would have been dead. She gulped at the thought of dying, and at the hands of her teammate no less. Slowly Naruto's angered expression switched into a blank look. However, to Sakura that look was far more frightening than she could imagine right now. Idly, Sakura glanced behind the blonde to find Shiroi. And find the white-haired girl she did, and she felt a spark of anger flow through her when she caught sight of her smug and smirking face. Sakura. I don't know what to say to you right now. But I will say this. From one on I am going to keep a close eye on you for the rest of this mission, understood? Kakashi coldly stated. Sakura could only nod. Abruptly, Naruto turned his attention on Shiroi, now sure that Kakashi had Sakura settled. Despite the bloodlust Altair was giving, the blonde refused to kill the pink-haired girl. In his eyes, she wasn't worth it anymore. Hey, don't just let her off the hook like that. Kill her. Crush her body into nothing but bones. Take fucking Altair, and shove the damn sword so far up her ass that she'll be spitting out pieces of him for the next 3 years. Damn it. Take your bare hands, and rip off that damn mouth of hers, and shove it back down her throat and then watch as she chokes on it. Cut off her fucking hair, and leave her to be a bald and stupid bitch. I don't care what you do. Just do something. Kyuubi roared in fury, as he glared maliciously at Sakura through Naruto's eyes. The blonde ignored the king of the Biju in favor of examining Shiroi, making sure she had no injures. Motherfucker. I know you are not ignoring me. Shiroi. Chan. Are you hurt? The blonde asked, giving his fiancé a concerned look. Shiroi gave him a bright smile. I'm fine, Naruto. Kun. Though I'm a little hurt, that you would think she could even touch me. She said in mock hurt, though the grin on her face spoke otherwise. Naruto gave her a small smile. I guess I was just a little bit too overprotective for a moment there. He answered. But I rather love that side of you, Naru. Koi. Shiroi whispered, her voice turning slightly seductive. The blonde gulped slightly, but a small grin crossed his face. Keep speaking like that, and you will be limping the rest of the way to Suna. Shiroi. Heim. He responded, his tone similar to hers. Chachizero made a couple of gagging motions as she looked upon the sight of both of her favorite people were going gaga over each other again. But in all seriousness, Shiroi. Chan. Are you alright? You're not hurt or anything? Naruto asked, concern lacing his voice again. Other than a feeling of annoyance towards that pink-haired wench. I'm fine. She answered, with a shrug at the end of her sentence. I'm glad. Naruto whispered, a small but bright smile on his face. You're really ignoring me, aren't you? Kyuubi said, disbelief in his tone. Naruto ignored the immature giant kitsune. Who's an immature kitsune brat? And instead the blonde focused, turning his attention to Sakura and Kakashi. A blank look immediately crossing his features. Sakura opened her mouth to say, nah. But then closed it when the blonde shot her a pointed look. Sharply, Naruto said, Kakashi. Senpai. Yes, Naruto. Taicho? Kakashi inquired, keeping Sakura tightly restrained and standing at attention. The blonde asked, in your opinion. What do you think we should do with Sakura? Sakura shifted nervously, and Kakashi hummed reflectively. Under normal means I would suggest that we return to Konoha immediately. So that Hokage Sama could dish out the punishment for insubordination, however our mission takes priority. So I would advise that Sakura be kept under close watch while we continue our mission. The masked Jonin nodded. With a long, thoughtful sigh, Naruto considered Kakashi's advice for a few extended moments. The blonde nodded silently after almost a minute had passed. Now then, Sakura flinched at the mention of her name. Okay, Kakashi. Senpai, I want you to keep a very close eye on Sakura. San. Naruto started, I believe we rested long enough. So I believe we are ready to move out. Any questions? The blonde asked, pulling on his hood and securing Altair. Nobody said anything. Kakashi realized that they had squandered too much valuable time handling Sakura's aggressive response to Shiroi. Additionally, he knew how important Gaara was to Naruto. Shiroi was ready to leave, so she said nothing. It wasn't really necessary for her to rest. She had enough energy to give Naruto a decent spar even if she didn't get any sleep for at least a whole month. That's one benefit of being a vampire. Sakura remained silent, not wanting to chance her luck. Even though Naruto doesn't talk to her very often these days, she was now positive that this mess would prevent him from speaking to her at all, if not completely cut off communication. Furthermore, she truly didn't want to push Naruto any further than she had with her little antics. Chachizuru remained silent, wanting to find these Akatsuki people and mutilate them because she was already tired of this place. Take a bath in their blood, and if they had any weapons, perhaps steal some. Concerning the Kyuubi? Motherfucker. Stop ignoring me, you son of a bitch. Now, let's set the enormous kitsune aside. Not even a sidelong glance at the Sakura. With a neutral, cold voice, Naruto said, "Let's move, team." All of the people in the clearing instantly disappeared with that one command. All that was left were the leaves in their original positions and the light wind that blew through them. As the Ichibi was taken from Gaara, his body contorted in excruciating pain and the young Kage's mouth opened in a silent scream. And the Ichibi inside him screamed in terror and agony. Zetsu abruptly announced among the Akatsuki, "I have news." Everyone snapped out of their intense focus and opened their eyes. Everyone was waiting impatiently to hear Pain's response to their question, "What have you to report, Zetsu?" The other members of the Akatsuki raised an eyebrow when they heard that. It appears that Konoha has sent a team of shinobi to assist Suna in their time of need. From what I was able to obtain, Konoha has sent the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, otherwise known as the Fox Assassin of the Elemental Nations. For them to believe that the Kyuubi Jinchuriki is actually the Fox Assassin they had been hearing so much about was intriguing, to put it mildly. Zetsu and Black Zetsu concluded. Hitaki Kakashi. The Kopinen and Kakashi of the Sharingan. The fifth Hokage's apprentice. And a girl with silvery white hair. With a thoughtful hum, Pain was observed by the other Akatsuki members, who were curious about their leader. A moment of silence, then Pain spoke, causing Zetsu to stiffen up. Zetsu. The sudden speech from their leader caused the others to tremble a little. I want you to place a seal to the entrance to this cave. Also keep a close eye on the Konoha shinobi, Itachi, Kisame. Stand by for the use of that jutsu. Pain said. Zetsu nodded silently, and the plant seemed to break apart, making a clone of a white Zetsu. The replica vanished into the earth with no communication at all. Pain said, barely registering his approval, "Good." The other Akatsuki turned to face the ringed-eyed man and said, "Now let us continue. We still need another 2 days to fully seal the Ichibi." Nobody paid any attention to the masked person perched atop the head of the Gedo Mizu statue. So, to save the Kage, the Kyuubi Jinchuriki was dispatched, huh? Fantastic, exactly as expected. This will be the ideal opportunity to assess the Kyuubi Jinchuriki's level of development. Zetsu has informed me that the Kyuubi Jinchuriki is extremely strong. Toby chuckled, I'm glad I decided to have Zetsu spy on the Kyuubi Jinchuriki when he went on that training trip with Jiraiya. He's powerful enough to defeat Pain and still give me a good workout. The man in the mask hummed thoughtfully. To think the boy would become so powerful. Is it possible that this supposed child of prophecy is actually Kyuubi Jinchuriki? Should the young lad really be the prophecy's child? Then maybe I could persuade him to come along with me. Toby pondered, after all, we only really need a fraction of the Kyuubi's chakra to revive it. But I'm not sure if when he's revived, he will approve of it. Either he would or won't probably approve. However, if I can win over the Kyuubi Jinchuriki, Toby trailed off in contemplation. The young Kage was looking at the masked man idly when he saw the Jinchuriki shifting in pain. The man in the mask went back to thinking without regret. A few minutes later, he abruptly got up. Either way, the Kyuubi Jinchuriki would be on his side. He was a master manipulator, after all. After all, he had learned from the best. It will be just as simple to convert the blonde Jinchuriki as it was to convert Uchiha Sasuke. All he has to do is figure out how to pull the strings of the Jinchuriki as best he can. Everybody was a puppet. All they needed was a little prodding. It's going to be easy to manipulate the blonde. He had managed to subjugate one Jinchuriki already, after all. Having an additional one? Play for children. The mosque's single hole flashed a bright red light as those thoughts passed. A lone Sharingan eye flickered menacingly before the masked man's whole body was swallowed by a portal that resembled a black hole. Straight out of his Sharingan. There was no one who noticed his absence. At the entrance to Suna, Naruto materialized out of nowhere. A moment later, he was abruptly approached by a massive cloud of sand that stopped right behind him, demonstrating that he had run the entire length of the desert and that even the sand was having trouble keeping up with his rapid pace. The veiled blonde rose slowly to her feet and turned to face Suna's gates. With his golden blonde hair blowing freely in the wind and Chachizero soundly dozing on top of his head, he pulled down his hood. Sweat dropped to his face in beads, but he ignored it. Kakashi moved slightly behind the blonde, closing the gap between them. The former Anbu panted loudly as the Jonin's mask became drenched in perspiration. But a soldier's pill soon fixed the issue for him, and he stood noticeably taller after that. Shiroi moved slowly up behind him. It didn't seem like the white-haired vampire was even slightly worn out. Still, she could see the beads of sweat running down her face. The girl with pink eyes glared at the desert sun, making it seem lifeless. Someday, she would destroy that damn sun one day. At last, Sakura moved behind the girl with white hair. But the girl with the pink hair collapsed not long after she appeared. Her face showed signs of exhaustion as she gasped in desperation. The girl with pink hair was as sweaty as Kakashi. But the girl forced herself to stand. She wobbled a little and then straightened up. The girl with pink hair reached into her pocket and took out a pill meant for soldiers. She took the pill just like Kakashi did, and the effects happened right away. The girl with the pink hair stood up more erect and wiped her sweating face quickly. She looked at Shiroi's form, her expression turning gloomy as she noticed Shiroi's expressionless expression. Naruto, in the meantime, gave his team a fleeting glance before giving them a small nod. The blonde headed for Suna's gates without saying anything. Kyuubi slowly opened his eyes inside the seal. The giant fox spoke softly in a deep voice, "Shukaku. My brother, soon we will save you. However, I can't promise that you will be complete." With a slight rattle, Altair prepared to give his wielder the best service possible.
So that's it for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe to the channel for more awesome stories like this. Thank you. See you all in my next video.